What's up, everybody? Welcome to PSILY XOXO episode 27. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the OK Beast, Blessing Adioye Jr.
What's up, Greg?
Not much, man. I haven't seen you all day. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I also kind of feel like I haven't seen you all day. It feels like we've been separated for too long. You know,
I
we get
agree.
off from KFPD on Friday, and then from there, it's just like we don't see each other.
I know.
I miss you.
Well, I miss you too. You duped me into coming to your birthday Zoom call, telling me it was a costume party, but then I was the only one dressed up. So good on you for that one.
You look great, though.
I did look great. I know that. You said it was an MCU birthday Zoom. Everyone should dress up. Is what you told me.
I don't remember saying that part, but you keep saying I said it, and so I gotta believe.
It sounds like something
you
said though, right?
Yeah, but you're the only one that showed up dressed up like Iron Man. Everybody else is in their normal.
Which really makes me think that I'm the only person you told that to, knowing that I would fully commit.
But you didn't. It was great.
It was great, but
I thought it was great.
It was insulting to an extent. You know what I mean? There's like 40 of your friends there, and it's me.
The deal is, it was a themed birthday party. It was a themed Zoom party, in which, in my mind, I was like, oh, everybody will change their Zoom backgrounds to like MCU themed stuff, right? Because I had like mine being like the Spider-Man Far From Home like party scene. I saw somebody else was in like the Sanctum Sanctorium from Doctor Strange, just stuff like that. But I do appreciate you showing up in the full tight Iron Man outfit with like the VR Iron Man headset. Sure. Like you look great. You showed up.
I tried. You know what I mean?
Made an impact.
I don't know if that's true, but I showed up for sure. So how you doing? How'd the rest of your weekend go? What'd you play? What'd you do? I mean, I know we're gonna talk about what you've been playing later, but all the same.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty chill. Like Friday, watched Hamilton. Saturday, did the Zoom, and dude, that Zoom lasted. I don't know if you realize this, because like I started the Zoom at like 7 p.m.
Yeah,
and I think most people stayed until like around probably like 9 or so. That Zoom went on until 2 a.m. That Zoom was 7 hours long. Yeah.
Jesus. Were you hammered at the end of it?
Yes, because I drank that whole bottle of champagne.
Excellent.
And so, yeah, after that, I was just recovering. Like all my Sunday was just recovering from that while also listening to Hamilton and playing Ghost of Tsushima.
Nice. Well, that's a pretty good Sunday.
Yeah, it was really chill. It was really nice.
Good. All right. Good.
What about you? How's your weekend?
It was good. Not, it was the same thing to an extent, right? I mean, you can't leave the house, but we went on a hike, and then I played a lot of Ghost, and then we went to your birthday party, and then we watched Independence Day, and then I played a lot of Ghost, and then I woke up on Sunday and played a lot of Ghost. And I'm not saying this to brag that we have the game. I'm letting you know that like been playing this thing nonstop, especially playing it after having played Iron Man. We got Iron Man last Monday, and then had the review embargo was Thursday. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, there is just so much to play right now, and it's not stopping. And we're going to get into all that when we get to that, I guess. But yeah, it's mainly been playing games.
You watched Independence Day?
I did watch Independence Day. I don't know if it was July 4th, our nation's birthday. And so there's only one way to celebrate that, and that's to watch Independence Day, ID4.
I respect it.
Thank you, Kevin. You know what I mean? It's kind of a dark time for America right now, but I'm not going to forget the good times, like when the aliens invaded and Will Smith fought him off with Jeff Goldblum.
Saved the world.
Yeah, exactly. Jeff Goldblum, too. Give some credit. All right?
I'm just a bigger Will Smith fan than
the
Jeff
second
Goldblum,
one.
If I'm being honest, I don't know if that's
Kevin. We don't talk about the second one.
In the second one,
we don't talk about the second one. It doesn't exist.
Did that come out?
Was
that
no,
the one that
it
came
didn't.
out? Like,
it was funny. It was canceled. Independence Day Resurgence never came out. It never came out. It never happened. Independence Day.
I forgot about that.
Enough about that, ladies and gentlemen. This is PSILY XOXO, your PlayStation podcast. Podcast. Fuck you, Kevin. You're in my head now. Podcast each and every week. We come to you on Tuesday with the PlayStation news you need to know about. Blessing and I gab for about 2 hours, hang out, do whatever it is we do over here, and you like it. Remember, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames like so many people are right now. Game Jumper X, I see you in the chat live watching right now. Of course, if you support on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, you can watch us record the show live. You can get the show ad-free. You can get the show with the exclusive post show we do each and every week. However, if you have no bucks to toss our way, it's no big deal. You can go to youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and podcast services around the globe each and every Tuesday to get a brand spanking new episode. Of course, it has ads, and guess what? No post show. You can only get that on Patreon, but you get the PlayStation show you deserve. Let's give you some housekeeping before we get into everything. Next week is Ghost of Tsushima week. If you didn't know, last week we were able to raise the tweets and everything and say we had the game. We're all playing the game. We're reviewing the game. The review is popping next Tuesday. That is usually the, of course, time slot for and day of for PS I Love You XOXO, but it'll be different. Next week, Tuesday morning, Kind of Funny Gamescast will pop with the Ghost of Tsushima review as usual. Panel discussion, me, Blessing, I think Imran, Kevin, maybe Barrett. There's a whole bunch of people getting involved with it. Like I said, that'll be up as a Kind of Funny Gamescast. YouTube.com/Kind of Funny Games. Podcast services on the Gamescast feed. What we're going to do is delay PS I Love You one day. And what that means is that we will record it Tuesday afternoon. What that means is that you have time to read or watch the review, read the other reviews from the other sites and everything else, and then get us your spoiler-free questions. Of course, the review will be spoiler-free in terms of story. And then we'll do a PS I Love You for Wednesday morning that will cover your questions, reader mail about what you want to know that reviews didn't cover, what you'd like to know more about information-wise like that. Blessing, I have not had the time to tell you that. Does that work for you?
I mean, yes. That
Okay,
it sounds like it should probably work for me. I assume that you looked at.
I moved everything on the schedule. It's we got that. There's a Stadia Connect, of course, Tuesday morning as well. So it's gonna be that, but there's stuff going on, but we'll be fine.
Sounds like that's an exciting Tuesday.
Stadia,
I'm excited about it.
They're gonna bring it back.
We'll see about that. I don't know what that. But anyways, Ghost of Tsushima week is next week on Tuesday. YouTube.com/Kind of Funny Games. Then again, PS I Love You XOXO posting for a special time on Wednesday. Also worth pointing out that this Sunday, the Sunday that's in front of us right now, is of course the Ubisoft Forward, Ubisoft's basically E3 presentation. We'll be live on Twitch.tv/Kind of Funny Games, talking about it, reacting to it live. That's noon Pacific time. Twitch.tv/Kind of Funny Games. If you miss it live, you can catch it later. YouTube.com/Kind of Funny Games. We'll put up the archive of our reaction. We'll put up a post show. And I can tell you, of course, we will have hands-on first impressions of Watch Dogs Legion and Assassin's Creed Valhalla from me and Barrett Courtney. So more to talk about in the show about that.
Can I file a complaint?
Sure.
Because I love Barrett Courtney as much as the next guy. How come he gets to play the Ubisoft game and me, the person that is on all the gaming content, PS Love You XOXO,
Sure.
Kind of Funny Games Daily, Kind of Funny Gamescast, all the different places in which I would talk about these things.
Sure.
Why am I not playing the Watch Dogs Legion?
I feel like you never vocalized when I put out, hey, who wants to go see Watch Dogs Legion? You know what I mean?
Wait, you put that up?
No, I don't think I did.
Oh, I was like, oh, damn.
You fucker. I think it was the fact that I don't want to get into too much stuff. But no, I guess it's true. I saw somebody tweet about it already. The appointments are very long. And so it's one of those things like when I'm not there, you have to be there, and then vice versa. We can still try to get you in this week if you want. I can hit them up. You want to get some Legion in there? You want to do that?
I mean, I might be interested in that Legion. If there's time, though.
Valhalla doesn't do it for you?
Actually,
not to mention, we're complaining about how we're trying to, not complaining, but like talking about how much Ghost there is.
Yeah, I know that, and that's the thing. Valhalla might do it for me, but let me circle back around after the episode.
We can talk about it. We'll get scheduled
before I make the commitment of like schedule me for a long thing.
Sure. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you of course should be like our Patreon producers. The following people supported us in the month of June. I'm talking about James Hastings, Sancho West Gaming, Julian, the gluten-free gamer, Delaney Twinning, Jeffrey P. Long, Jesus Berio, aka Bentfork PR, Skin Tight Salmon, the best name in a long time, Game Jumper X again, who's in the live chat, and Mohammed, aka Momo. Today we're brought to you by youtube.com/Kind of Funny Games. But for now, let's start with this week's X's and O's.
Item number 1, Greg.
Yeah.
Have you been on Twitter? Are you familiar with these social networks?
Oh, twitter.com.
Twitter.com.
Yes, I've been on Twitter.com.
People like to wild out on Twitter.com every now and then.
Hold on, real quick. Time out. I'm sorry, everybody. Jen, do I look like Kevin Coelho? Do I look like I'm going to eat during a podcast in front of the microphone? This watermelon looks delicious.
Tell her I love watermelon. I appreciate watermelon. Watermelon on the show. At home.
God damn it,
while
Kevin.
Sleeping.
While you're sleeping. Oh, my God.
Oh, man.
I've been on Twitter.com, Blessing.
Yeah, Neil Druckmann and Laura Bailey tweeted out over the last week about some of the DMs, some of the messages they've been getting. And let me tell you, man, people are angry out here. People are angry, and people are displaying that anger in very unacceptable and very obscene ways. Yes. And so they tweeted that stuff out, and I'm not going to quote any of the tweets. One, because I don't have them in front of me, and two, because I couldn't quote them if I wanted to because they're terrible. But on the heels of that happening, Naughty Dog tweeted out this last weekend, and they said, quote, "Although we welcome critical discussion, we condemn any form of harassments or threats directed towards our team and cast. Their safety is our top priority, but we must all work together to root out this type of behavior and maintain a constructive and compassionate discourse." Which is good. Like that, I think that's a good statement to put out there
100%.
Because I think we've all kind of seen it over the last month and a half, over the last couple of months, actually. Ever since
since the leak happened, yeah, right.
Yeah, people came out and people were there has been mixed reception as far as like moments in The Last of Us Part 2 and I guess people's reactions to those spoilers / big story moments range from people going like, "Oh, cool," to "Oh, I'm gonna threaten you." And I don't know, it's kind of messed up. But did you have any sort of reaction to the statement that he put out?
Well, from the Naughty Dog statement?
Yeah.
Although we welcome critical discussion, we condemn any forms of harassment. I think it's good to see, because I think when you look at both the Laura tweet and the Neil tweet, right? And again, I'm not going to go into what if you're unfamiliar, you're not a Twitter user, you just missed this, you're just out there driving your tractor right now in the field. I understand. They screenshotted a lot of horrible things that have been said to them and put them into collages, right? So Laura's tweet accompanying this, not the actual comments that horrible people were making, was, man, I try to only post positive stuff on here, but sometimes this just gets a little overwhelming. I blacked out some of the words because, spoilers. Side note, thank you to all the people for sending me positive messages to balance it out. It means more than I can say heart. Neil's one was, you can love or hate the game and share your thoughts about it. Unfortunately, too many of the messages I've been getting are vile, hateful, and violent. Here are just a handful of them. Parentheses, I feel it's important to expose. And then he has a trigger warning for everything that's horrible said in there. And both of them follow up with, Neil follows up with, thanks for all the incredible words of support. Just know that despite all this, if somehow the Lord gave me a second chance at making this game, I'd do it all over again. On to more positive things like burrito appreciation threads, heart. And Laura had followed up on her tweet and said, damn, the amount of encouraging responses to this, ... I've always believed that good people far outweigh the bad. Thanks for reminding me of that today. So I think both tweets are incredibly important. The Naughty Dog one is what we all think and what y'all say, and of course, being a corporate, an entity, right? Like not being a person, right? It's very like, here's what it is by the book. I'm sure it went through Sony lawyers and a bunch of other people. I love what I'm seeing from Laura, and I love what I'm seeing from Neil. But then I also love seeing both Neil and Hallie go after the trolls, not after them in terms of like, fuck you, you're an idiot, fuck you, and you're fuck you, like that kind of shit, but making them into the jokes they truly are. I think that this is all very much wrapped up in what's been happening across the internet in general. When we did the Kind of Funny podcast, that was Let's talking about our own community, internet communities in general, that I think the don't feed the trolls line, right, is what has been the marching order for so long. And it's done well for a lot of us, but I don't think it does as well when you're talking about Laura Bailey pouring her heart and soul into a video game role. And I'm speaking out of turn here, but if you go watch We Have Cool Friends with Laura, right? And thank you to so many of you who have. We talk about this, and she cries at one point, and it's the same thing of like in the spoiler cast with Neil, Ashley, and Laura, Troy. They get upset and they tear up, and they're talking about the hate and all this different stuff. And it's the idea, I think, for someone like Laura Bailey, who, and again, I'm not in Laura's shoes, you know what I mean? I'm not on her Twitter feed the way I am on my Twitter feed or anything else. Like, I always compared internet hate for a developer to something I would go through at IGN, but at IGN it was putting up, and it's kind of funny for that matter too, it's putting up 3 videos a day, 3 articles a day. Somebody wants to be an asshole in them, you get used to it pretty quick. I always talk about IGN giving me this, like, thick skin, steel skin, whatever. And I think when you're a developer, you only get to swing that bat once every 4 years. I mean, that's, and I'm, obviously Neil's a different breed here with Last of Us, the Uncharted's, everything else. There's different things going on there. So I think you get used to it, but then again, as you get amplified to the front of it, you become the face of Naughty Dog, for better or worse. That also changes it. I think Laura's in a very interesting place that, again, as I was trying to drive to a second ago, but derailed my own point. I'm not in her shoes. I don't know. I don't follow her shenanigans like to the letter. So I don't know, but I would imagine this is definitely the biggest time somebody's been angry at her. And I would venture to guess it was honestly one of the only times, right? I'm sure in Critical Role they've done something or said something that's, gotten them not in trouble, but like offended people. And there's been conversations about it. But to really be exposed to internet hate in this way, to really be exposed on this grand scale, to really be exposed for everybody involved on this project in a way that I do think is unheard of in the video game industry. Like, I do think that this is, I guess I shouldn't say unheard of, because you could loop Gamergate into it. But I think in terms of a video game, a AAA video game from PlayStation, who's on top of this generation, to have that game come out and have it be this visceral of a reaction, have this many people angry, have them saying this many horrible fucking things to them. I think that this is as evident with everything else we're happening right now on the internet and in how we talk to each other, a tipping point moment. And I think it's a watershed moment where I do think that there is we're not going to do this anymore. The old rules don't apply anymore in a certain way where, yeah, we could sit there and ignore the trolls. You could just engage with your positive commenters. You could, turn off tweets and do Twitter responses and shit like that. But I think both in the reaction to the post from Laura and Neil, you see what I always talk about with the silent majority. The people who totally see these games, enjoy these games. Maybe they didn't love the story, but they understand the creative work that went into it and are down for that. And to see somebody, both Laura and Neil, admit, hey, this is just a glimpse at what I'm getting. I think that's an eye-opener for so many people that aren't paying attention to it and aren't posting. I mean, because again, like, if you're just downloading our podcasts and, are watching on Patreon, and I'm painting with a broad brush here and being a bit... I guess I'm generalizing too much probably, but I bet a lot of people don't know how bad it is out there. They hear that it's bad.
Oh, yeah.
They hear people are being assholes about The Last of Us Part 2, but they don't see it. And so to do the thing that, again, not in an eye for an eye kind of way. This isn't them, coming out and trying to attack one person, attack these certain people, start a fight. It is very much like just picking it up and being like, this is I'm going to hold it up to you. I'm going to show you what I'm getting in a distilled form. And for people to step back and go, holy shit, fuck, that's not cool. Yeah. I think that is the right thing. I think that is a powerful thing. I think it is, I saw Lucy O'Brien from IGN and Podcast Beyond, I think quote tweet one of these, or maybe just do one of her own. That was like, you need to understand, like, creative types in every field, like, don't get enough positive reinforcement. They only get told when they fuck up. Like, if you have a favorite anything, you should reach out and tell those people that you like them, because it's what I always go back to and talk about on this show and other shows and kind of funny shows, right? Of like, guess what? Like, it is the mean people, the mean comment. When you're angry, that motivates you to go out there and talk to somebody in a way that when you're happy with something, you don't. When you're happy with The Last of Us Part 2, you close it down and you talk to your friend. When you're angry, you go to Neil Druckmann and like, I'm going to fucking kill you. He's like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Grow up. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And for me, it's one of those things where I don't even know what the correct answer is in terms of how to deal with it. Because, like, I think there's power in there's the idea that the people that are reaching out to you, or the people that are harassing you, or the people that are trolling in your DMs or in comments are just looking for that reaction, and they're like hunger and thirst for it. And I think there's somewhat power in like silencing those people by like not acknowledging their existence, and making them scream into a void. But I think at the same time, there's also power in doing what you just said, right? And taking that, holding it up, and being like, hey, people, this is not acceptable. Like, look at, like, these are the messages I'm getting in my DMs, and this isn't okay. Like, these are terrible things to say. This is a terrible thing to do as a human being.
And I want to bring in a question here, because this is one that I saw and grabbed and I think applies to everything we're saying right now. Spiders from Saigon writes in and says, hey guys, goes without saying, I love the show and all things kind of funny. With the fallout from The Last of Us Part 2 and the appalling abuse directed at Neil Druckmann and Laura Bailey, are you worried that game companies won't take creative narrative risks for a while? I think that's part of where we're going with this, but I wanted to get it out there early and get it in there. To what you were just talking about, right, Wes, of... you see it from both sides of ignore the trolls, engage with the good folks, keep moving on kind of thing. For me personally, and this is what we were talking about in the Let's Talk Kind of Funny podcast episode, of like, that's been my MO for 13 years on the internet, and it clearly isn't working. You know what I mean? Like, it's that idea that we've tried it that way and it's still emboldening people to think that if they write to Laura Bailey and say horrible fucking things, that's going to change her opinion, change Naughty Dog's opinion, change, make her not want to be that character, make her apologize, make them get a different cut of The Last of Us Part 2, something like that. Like, I think right now, letting people be completely off the rails assholes in the shadows no longer works. And I think it does need to be pulled out and said that this isn't acceptable. Like, this isn't what it's going to be. And I think Neil's been doing, I say good job, because, and this is a weird thing to say, obviously, because it's not a fun situation, but he's been doing a good job of not angrily engaging with these people, but quote tweeting them and being like, whatever, like just showing them it doesn't matter. Right. I think it was when The Last of Us Part 2 released on a day when it released, period. And the Metacritic was up, and it was obviously super positive for critical reviews, super negative for user reviews. And I forget how many thousands of reviews there were. Neil screen capped it, clipped out everything except the number of people who had reviewed the game, and put it up. And he's like, I just want to thank everybody for their overwhelming support. Like, in 12 hours, we've gotten more user reviews than we did in all 7 years of The Last of Us Part 1. And like, that is the easiest way to engage this level of idiocy, is to point out that they are in fact idiots. And I don't mean to point it out in the, you're fucking stupid, I'm going to argue with you, I'm going to do this thing. It's to point that out and like, hey, here's a nonsensical thing, right? Like, how could this get more? Oh, because you're angry about something stupid. And here's all of you saying you weren't going to buy The Last of Us Part 2. And guess what? It's the best-selling first 3 days for a PlayStation 4 exclusive. It's like, you don't matter. Like, you all thought you had this thing. We're going to leak the trailer or the cutscenes. We're going to talk all this shit. We're going to talk about organizing bull. And here we are. It didn't fucking matter. You legitimately don't matter. Your nonsensical, hateful, bigoted movement does not matter. And guess what? How we show how stupid you are. We show it. We just put it out there. It goes back, I think, to when I had Gene on We Have Cool Friends, who wrote Superman Smashes the Klan. You know, one of the things we talked about is the fact that, you know, that comic book is, you know, based on the Superman radio show that ran back in the day, where they literally did a whole, like, whatever it was, 18-part series about the KKK and totally called them out and showed how stupid they were. And then it was just, and like, they totally tanked the numbers of the KKK and showed to a large number of the audience, right, that changed the American popular opinion on the KKK of, oh, this isn't like a community group, this is a bunch of fucking morons. And that's something similar here, where I do think this needs to be talked about. You need to show this. You need to have, you know, Laura put this out and then have so many people in the comments that are the verified check marks, that are other game developers, other internet personalities, other actors. And the same thing for Neil, coming out and being like, yeah, this is unacceptable. Fuck those kind of people. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's just, you have to, I think it's that you have to normalize that this isn't normal, and you have to call out the fact that this isn't normal, and you don't have you don't deserve a seat at this table. And if you do come to at anyone on the internet with these kind of opinions and ideas and this kind of constructive criticism, that you're going to get laughed out of the room because you're a joke.
Yeah. So to focus on Spiders from Saigon's question, because I like it. Are you worried that game companies won't take creative risks for a while? And I mean, I think my response to that is no. Like, I don't think. I mean, and it's hard to talk without, like, you know, pointing out exactly like what's going on in The Last of Us Part 2 that makes people so angry. But if you were to ask me, as far as like, is The Last of Us Part 2 story like the most controversial, like, mind-blowing thing of all time, I wouldn't think so. Like, I playing through the game, I can understand why quite a few people could be like taken aback, or maybe not, in fact not enjoy certain story beats or certain narrative beats or certain story moments. But I mean, I think when you zoom back and just look at it as a whole, it's not really that crazy what they're doing here. I think it's cool and dynamic and like interesting in a lot of ways. But I don't necessarily look at The Last of Us Part 2 as having like one of the riskiest stories in games by any means. And so I honestly think things go business as usual. And like, maybe and I think maybe the question is, like, on this scale of AAA or quadruple A, or in this scale of popularity, do we see big risk taking? Because for me, my mind immediately went to indie games with this question. My mind immediately went to games that kind of have less to lose
I think indie games already do that, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the way in which I'm thinking about it, and that's why Last Part 2 doesn't really, like, it didn't necessarily make me go like, oh, how dare they at any point. It's because, like, the games have done dynamic and I guess risky things in the past within their stories, but I guess for the AAA, for the games that are going to speak to the, I guess, the most mainstream, do we see creative risk like this? I mean, yes and no. So for me, the most left field video game I've played within the last year has been Death Stranding.
Okay.
And that's obviously because it's Kojima and it's him doing this weird thing and it's an art piece and all these different things. I kind of wish we got more of those, but I don't feel like we get those enough in general. And not in terms of, hey, make like a delivery person simulator that takes place in post-apocalypse. I just mean like make something dynamically cool and different and I guess risky. That is with the budget of like AAA. Yeah, I don't know. Does that make sense, Greg? Do you have any thoughts on this?
It does. I would love to, and I understand that it's the spoiler thing. You don't think that anything in Last of Us was that risky? Was narrative creatively risky?
Not that there's nothing in there that wasn't risky. I think.
You follow me on that, right? And I understand too. We're trying not to spoil it, obviously.
Yeah, I just think there have been riskier things done in plenty of other video games that like haven't gotten as much scrutiny. Like I don't necessarily think it's the fact that they're taking narrative risks in Last of Us that like is the issue with people. I think with Last of Us it's the fact that they went a direction with the story that people just didn't like. That is the main problem.
But that's a big risk, right?
Yeah, but that's also storytelling. I don't know.
Sure.
Like that's
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah. And I feel like with the stories that I appreciate the most in games, like they've gone in storytelling directions I didn't expect, and that like hit home because of that.
Here's my
like
thing.
when I think
again, without getting into spoilers at all, and I guess you're probably just about to get there. To lay it out why I think it is risky, right? The games you're talking about, were they sequels? Like, were they the direct sequel to a beloved game that in the modern era? I know I'm playing fast and loose and trying to paint. I'm clearly trying to paint a picture where Last of Us is on a different level for that. But I think in a time where we talk about like stamping a 2, 3, or 4 onto the end of your title, and all these publishers want games that are things that can be sequelized and can go on forever. And I think then to come in and rock the boat in the way The Last of Us does. Not in the ways that a lot of the bigots are mad about, in a lot of the ways that just like the misguided fans, I think, are angry about. I think that was a risk for them.
I could see that, and I think Last of Us Part 2 is in a very it's in a very unique situation where it is a sequel, and it is a sequel to one of the most beloved games of the last 7 years. That is this huge thing. That is one of the biggest PlayStation games, and that kind of puts Last of Us Part 2 in a very interesting place where only Last of Us Part 2 could have done what The Last of Us Part 2 did in its game. There aren't many other games in the position to tell a similar kind of story, do a similar kind of thing. There's only one game I can think of that I think is very comparative that probably had somewhat of a similar reaction, and I can't say it because that would be spoilers.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and like I guess that is risk, but at the same time, I don't think that necessarily reflects on AAA development or AAA storytelling within the next few years. Like I don't think this makes other publishers or other developers go, oh shoot, yo, let's change things up because people aren't ready for what we're doing, or people aren't ready for something that wants to go left field or something that isn't interesting or dynamic.
See, I think my take on the question, right, again, back to Spiders, which was, the fallout from Last of Us 2 and the appalling abuse. Are you worried game companies won't take creative narrative risks for a while? I think that both love it or hate it, Death Stranding. I think the success of God of War, which again, I think is something we, as oh my God, 2018 game of the year, blah, blah, blah. We kind of write off the fact, right, that was, for all intents and purposes, a reboot. You know what I mean? It was a bold choice to change Kratos and change God of War and make it a more emotional story in a way the others hadn't been, right? And it's not, I don't think, on the level of what happens Last of Us, but it is in the same vein of like, wow, that's different. I think those successes are inspirations. And I think that even if you look at the abuse being directed here, I think the reaction to it of people calling it out as bullshit and the industry rallying around those people, whether it be fans, whether it be fellow developers, whether it be other voice actors, right? I think shows that no, like we're an adult industry, you know what I mean? We're a grown-up industry, and we can do this, and it doesn't matter. Even if like some people want to remain children who are kicking and screaming in the past that it isn't, the exact same game and the exact same thing they wanted it to be, they can get fucked because this is a narrative, this is a story, this is a thing that you're along for. And, I think in the same way you talk about don't feed the trolls, I think in the same way games for not their entire time, and I'm again broad brushing it here, but games struggle with that, the player ownership, who owns these characters, and how does that work? You sit there and you play the game and you make the decision. Sometimes you at least choose what gun you're going to use, and it's like I always talk about The Walking Dead, right? We all have the same coloring book page, we just fill it in differently, and that makes it our own. When you get to these kind of moments where you have fans going like Last of Us Part 2 is a violation of the characters because that's not how the characters would act. That's not what they would do. That's not how my Ellie would act, or how you get into this thing where at the end of the day, no matter how much ownership you feel or we feel about a character, you have to sit there and be like, no, like this is Naughty Dog's thing. Like they made this thing. They're telling us a story. And I think that gets lost a lot because a lot of games aren't telling you a story. Lots of games are just like, fucking run around, do your skill tree, do whatever you want to do and figure out how it all gets put together. Whereas this is a quote unquote wake up call, I think, of at least for Naughty Dog and at least for Last of Us. Like, no, you were along for the ride. You weren't driving it. You were very much in the passenger seat, even though at times you felt like you were driving it.
I can see that. I think that all makes sense.
Can I bring in a good tweet?
Oh, please do.
Rocco Bot put out a tweet, of course, from Mega64 on June 23rd that I enjoyed. People say the AAA game should take more risks, but when reviewers can't compare Death Stranding to another game, people cancel their pre-order. When The Last of Us Part 2 takes bold story risks, it's, quote, an attack on fans. What an environment. We deserve Madden.
And I can see that. Like, and that was honestly my big complaint with, or not a big complaint, but that was a big, I guess, discussion point for me in Death Stranding, as Death Stranding was kind of on the ramp up to release, and as everybody was kind of questioning, like, all right, so what the fuck is this game? What am I doing? And as people kind of start to understand it, and as those conversations went, I kind of got frustrated in terms of the fact that Death Stranding mechanically is doing something that you can't really compare to anything else. And I'm not saying that Death Stranding is this bold new game or this bold new experience, but it is something that is pretty wholly unique in terms of Kojima went, yo, how do I make this delivery simulator that takes place in the post-apocalypse and that you can't be outside and all this different stuff. I think the fact that we couldn't compare it to other things kind of led to the conversation around it kind of tainting it a bit. Sure. Because like the whole conversation around that game was the fact that this game is weird and not, all right, does this game do anything we can learn from? Or does this game, like, how do the mechanics represent, or how do the mechanics play into the story of the game? Or how, like, I feel like there's so much to kind of dig into there with Death Stranding, and a lot of those conversations didn't end up happening because we're kind of obsessed with, like, oh, okay, is this how weird is this thing from Kojima, as opposed to like, what the fuck is this actual game, and can we actually talk about it? Which is frustrating. And I can see some of the similar things happening in The Last of Us Part 2. And I think I said this last week, but I'm at least with The Last of Us Part 2, I think we're further in the conversation than we were with Death Stranding, to where now we're actually talking about the game. We're actually talking about plot beats. Like, I've seen plenty of articles that are either critiques or praises of various elements of The Last of Us Part 2, which I'm very thankful for. But to a certain extent, I feel like with AAA, especially whenever something risky, quote unquote, does happen or does get made, those conversations tend to go places that it's like, was it even worth making this risky thing if we're not even going to allow this thing to breathe and actually have actual conversation about it?
Well, you've stumbled on a very interesting point, and I think it again piggybacks off the question here, right? Of like, they won't take creative narrative risks for a while. Last of Us is I think, narrative risk. But I think the gameplay is so fucking good and engaging that it pulls you through, and you want to do that stealth stuff. You want to go collect stuff. You want to go through and upgrade your shit, right? I think where you get into this interesting thing when you bring up Death Stranding is that Death Stranding worked for me. Like, I enjoyed that game all the way through and had a great time and thought it was, like I always said, I'm very therapeutic. That's not it. Meditative. But I feel like there were so many people that dropped off long before they rolled credits on Death Stranding because they just didn't like the gameplay. Like, you know what I mean? I think sure, it's a Kojima game, so there's the narrative creative risks. Okay, I like that's the thing is I would never say that I think Death Stranding took a narrative creative risk. Yes, it did. There's BTs in another universe and babies.
One of the strangest stories in the game I've played.
But it's like that's like the Kojima, like, okay, cool. That's the genre.
That's his MO.
I expect it to be weird and all over the place. I think what sunk Death Stranding having the same, because I think God, this is such a great point, Bless. Of like, you know, we're still in the moment right now, obviously, of everybody beating The Last of Us and wanting to talk about The Last of Us. But I still think that months from now, years from now, you're going to be down to talk about The Last of Us. And I saw somebody just put up an interesting theory on Twitter about Ellie's friendship bracelet. And that's all I'm going to say. You can go find it if you want out there. And it's like, oh man, that kind of shit I think is going to keep happening. You're going to keep having those kind of conversations and little discussions. Death Stranding, on the other thing, though, I think saw such a drop off in people where it was either, yep, I'm all in and I want to see this through and I want to, you know, connect America, or this is the same thing over and over to these same hubs. I'm done. And you drop off after 5 hours. That the story, the conversation was never, let's talk about the narrative at the end. It was, let's talk about the gameplay and what you saw from it and how that went. And I think that's the apples and oranges thing where Death Stranding is not being talked about that in the same way.
Yeah. And it's kind of a bummer to me because I think for me, I really like gameplay mechanics and I really like I like dissecting gameplay loop and I really enjoy those conversations almost more so than talking about story. And so I think the Death Stranding conversation kind of became more of a bummer for me for that type of reason, and for The Last of Us part 2. Like, I'm glad that we're in this place of the conversation, but I think that's also I think in a way that also becomes the whole Sony conversation of like, you know, does PlayStation take enough risks and all that stuff?
And that's what I thought too. Is that when I saw that Rocco tweet go, I was like, "Ooh, that's a great point." I guess you know what I mean. Of like, I think we all think of change being sweeping, and it is to an extent. I think when you see a game come out and do something that's never been seen before, and it's super accepted and super beloved, then yeah, you do start to see that trickle down and get into other games and go. But a lot of these narrative risks and things you're doing and pushing, I think, you know, you look at, I think if you agree with me that God of War was a narrative risk, not on the level I think of what Last of Us Part 2 does, but that was them start like, how far can we push this? What is the boundary? And then Naughty Dog comes out again. I mean, I'm Greg Miller, so whatever, but I think the best developer in games today comes out with arguably one of the most beloved games, a sequel to it, and does something very risky and different in the narrative. And that is the kind of shit that like you explode through a wall, and I'm sure everybody winces, and then it's like, oh fuck, 4 million in 3 days. All right, we're fine. And I think that's the message that goes out there suddenly is like, if you have a good enough story to tell, you can get through and do this, and you can actually accomplish it. And I think that, you know, that's different in every way, shape, and form, right? But even when you're talking about, you know, a narrative risk in an indie game, like I already think those happen. And I know it's a tired example, but like Gone Home, right, was a different kind of thing. And if you haven't played Gone Home, go play Gone Home. But it was incredibly different for its time in terms of subject matter and how it was portrayed and how we all got into it. And so those are happening there, but those are going to be smaller incidents, smaller blips in the radar than if you are the AAA studio and you're putting out the AAA sequel, you know what I mean? A game everyone is looking forward to. And a lot of people who came in on The Last of Us the first time around, and as we talked about last week, right, I don't think really got the message they were driving, and, you know, really came away with a different interpretation of the characters and what their lives and motivations were. And so to get here and get a whole, you know, big old glass of this is what the fuck this game is about, I understand why some people bristle at that, but I also think that that's awesome. And I want games to challenge us. And I want more. I obviously am somebody who loves a game. You know, I love fucking, as I talk about them, checklist games where it's, you know, go get these control points, go synchronize these towers, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like, sure, there's a story for Cassandra or whatever, but like, just go do all this random shit. And I'm like, yes, sir, I will spend 100 and some odd hours doing this. But I also want games like Last of Us Part 2 that are coming in with a story to tell, with a perspective, with something to say, I think. I think it's that interesting thing, and why I think Last of Us is so special is that it has something to say and it's amazing to play. Where I think lots of games miss that mark, and they are amazing to play, but there's the thing you're doing, right? You're whatever. And
like
there's plenty of room for that.
Assassin's Creed isn't necessarily trying to be The Last of Us Part 2, right?
Yeah.
And like that's an okay thing.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, speaking of PlayStation taking risks, item number 2. How serious is PlayStation taking indies? This is coming off of last week. There was a PlayStation blog post from Yushuya Yoshida where they talked about their new indie initiative. The blog post reads, "Hi everyone," and this is Shuya Yoshida talking. "Hi everyone. As some of you may have noticed, I've long been a fan of indie games, and ever since I was appointed as head of Indies Initiative for PlayStation November the last year, I've been working closely with all departments at Sony Interactive Entertainment to elevate our efforts to help make indie developers' lives easier and their titles shine in this super competitive video game market. I'm pleased to formally announce the PlayStation Indies Initiative. With PlayStation Indies, we hope to spotlight and support the best of the best indie games being published on PlayStation and the entire indie community as a whole. Our goal is to make PlayStation the best place to develop, find, and play great indie games. The indie community is increasingly important for the future of the games industry. As AAA game development has grown so financially demanding that big companies are finding it harder to take risks to invest in new concepts that may or may not work. We trust indie developers with strong vision will continue to bring ideas that have never been tried before, creating whole new genres of games and advancing the art and meaning of video games. PlayStation has always embraced games with completely new concepts, like Parappa the Rapper, Katamari Damacy, Little Big Planet, and Journey, and we look forward to seeing what surprising new ideas will come next. While details are still forthcoming, we're also happy to confirm a new indie title will join the PlayStation Now service every month, starting with Hello Neighbor in July. Please look out for our monthly PS Now posts for more information. Today, alongside news of the PS Indies initiative, we're happy to debut 9 imaginative and exciting titles coming to both PS4 and PS5. And those games were Worms Rumble, Haven, Cardo, Recompile, Where the Heart Is, Maquette, Fist Forged in Shadowtech, Heavenly Bodies, and Creeks. Greg.
Yeah.
How serious is PlayStation taking indies? Because this is a conversation that we've had over the course of however many episodes we're into PSLV now, like
27. I put 27? It right at the top. I put it right at the top.
Yeah.
I never forgot. These are like the best moments of my week, and I can't believe you keep forgetting.
I apologize for keeping on forgetting. 26.
Come on, Bless,
episode 26 we're in right now, Greg.
You know, Kevin,
27.
It's that thing where I thought we were having a relationship with them. We were building something here. You know what I mean?
It's like he doesn't care, and I don't even know what to say.
Love him and leave him blessing. He's gonna give us 56 episodes.
Kevin, you want to host the PlayStation podcast? You want? I'll produce the show.
I tried,
Kevin.
Bless. I tried. He wouldn't have it with me.
Trust me, you don't want Kevin on this show.
But
I tried to play a game last night, but Paula wouldn't let me.
Wait, is that a real story? Is that just an impression? Is that just an example? Kevin, were you trying to play a game last night? Did Paula not let you?
Look, last night I passed out like maybe 4:00 p.m. and then slept till today. So maybe she wouldn't have let me play a game. I couldn't find out.
Kevin, you might need to go to the doctor. That doesn't sound right.
I got a situation here. All right, so keep the show going. I'm cleaning up some poo. See you guys.
Got it. Okay, cool.
But yeah,
Kevin's
like
big continent.
We've been having this indie conversation about PlayStation.
Sure.
For even years at this point, right? Beyond even this show.
Yeah.
Beyond. The fact that it seems like if you look at the PS4 generation, for example, toward the beginning of a generation, we'll see Sony and PlayStation take ownership of indies and kind of forget over the course of time. Do you feel like this might be the case here, or do you feel like PlayStation's here to stay? PlayStation's putting a ring on it.
This is such a hard question to answer because anything we do is just a prediction. And it's this weird push and pull argument of, I always go back to how they launched the PlayStation 4 and how they put indies front and center and how over time they receded from doing that and just pushed their AAA stuff because they had so many exclusives and things to worry about. And that was the end of Adam Boyes and Gio Corsi coming out and talking about those kind of games. That said, there still are indies coming to PlayStation 4. There were indies coming to PlayStation 4. It's just it seemed like for the most part, the deals would be that they were on Switch or they'd be on Xbox first, and then they'd come to PlayStation later on. Now that we're here, it's a huge question that I don't have the answer for. And my gut reaction would be that, yeah, we're going to see a similar thing we saw at a PlayStation 4, where I think you're going to come out of the gate strong, right? Because you read these ones from the PlayStation Indie Initiative, right? That, again, we're in a bit of a different thing because, of course, Shu moved from being head of Worldwide Studios to leading this Indie Initiative. Greg Rice left Double Fine and came over here to do this Indie Initiative. And to see it actually have a name and see it actually get promoted on the blog and see all that is awesome. And you then back it up to what we saw from the PlayStation 5 event, right? Remember that indies were a huge part of that. If you go to the PlayStation blog, they list Bugsnax, Goodbye Volcano High, Jet, The Far Shore, Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, Little Devil Inside, Oddworld Soulstorm, The Pathless, Stray, and Solar Ash as the indies from that. So right there, you team them up with this, and that's a huge slate of indies right now that have some kind of exclusivity coming to PlayStation and are being promoted that way. Because things like Haven, of course, we knew were coming to PC already. What this means, I can't say, and I don't think anybody can. My prediction would be that, yeah, they're going to be all about this again, like they were for PlayStation 4. And I think State of Plays give them a different out than having to wait till an E3 or a PSX. But I see them making these deals while they need them. But once third party is up to speed, once it's, it's not a news story that this is coming to PlayStation 5. Once you see Bandai Namco and EA just transition off of making PlayStation 4 games and everything is PlayStation 5, then I think you see the foot come off the gas on this. Maybe. Hopefully not. I'd love to see PlayStation continue to support. I know, people want to make the argument, and rightfully so, that I can see it. Exclusives are bad, and you wish everything was on all platforms, and you wish it was all there. I get that. With indies specifically, the reason an Epic Game Store contract, an Xbox Game Pass contract, a PlayStation Indies Initiative contract that also brings you to the PlayStation Now means so much is that, guess what? Usually the deals you sign are enough that, hey, this game's in the black already. Like with the money we put in, the house we mortgaged, the thing we did, like the risk we took to make this game is paid off in one fell swoop. And so as a user on the end, it sucks if you only own a PlayStation 5 or you only own an Xbox Series X and it comes to the other platform first or maybe only. That sucks, and I get that. But it is the thing of I want to see developers supported because it is so hard for indies to get any juice behind them. Like we talked about it on this week's Gamescast where it was who won E3. And I said Bugsnax. And I, of course, point to the room because, full disclosure, my wife, co-owns Pop Agenda and is helping with marketing and PR and all that jazz for Bugsnax. It has not at all trickled down to me understanding what the fuck a Bugsnax is or why the hell everybody's obsessed with it. But the fact that everyone's singing that song and making jokes and changing their Twitter, blah, 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 like that's unheard of. And as good as my wife is at her job, it's not even her, right? It's that trailer. We all watched that trailer in the PlayStation 5 front and center, and everybody was fucking singing it. And Shu talks about it in this Indie Initiative blog post that has nothing to do with the other blog post or the other thing. Like that kind of penetration is unheard of in a lot of ways. I mean, don't get me wrong, not unheard of. Obviously, Cuphead, obviously, Octodad had a song too. Like there's these examples, but what I'm trying to say is think about the indies that have gotten to that kind of threshold that become a mainstream, we're all talking about a thing. And then think about the dozens of indies I read to you, Blessing reads to you each and every day on Kind of Funny Games Daily that you have no idea what they are and we have no idea what they are. Like making a game is a huge risk and it's a huge risk for any developer. But I mean, like the market is so crowded that I totally get people wanting to have this done, that we've signed a deal and no matter what, we're okay. And I think the more people who are signing those checks, the better. Because if it was to go the opposite way where PlayStation was, I think what they were here at the end of the PlayStation 4 life cycle, more like, hey man, well, I shouldn't say that because these are coming to PlayStation 4, but you know what I mean? Before this initiative, before Shu switched over, when they were more like, hey, our exclusives are pushing everything. The third parties are already coming here. We don't really need to pay for indies. That's fine, but that just means now that it's Epic and Xbox and Nintendo, I guess, to an extent, doing it. And when you start eliminating not even competitors, just options from there, what about when Nintendo and Game Pass and Epic all pass on something? And it could have been something that Xbox or PlayStation would have picked up, but they didn't. And instead, that game releases on 3 different platforms with no marketing support. It doesn't get featured on the blog. It doesn't get featured on the store. It's just something you hear me read and we go, that's a funny name, but we don't even watch the trailer and we move on.
Yeah.
Like that's a team's fucking last 2 years of their life, probably 3, maybe a year and a half, whatever. That's somebody's fucking life that just came out and went out to a wet fart. And you feel terrible for those people. And so I hope PlayStation is committed to this, because I think the more avenues there are for indies to do this, the better. I think that Shu and Greg Rice, again, Greg Rice, I know is a name I throw around a lot, worked at Double Fine forever, runs Day of the Devs, like eats and sleeps and lives indies. Like he understands that side of the industry so well. The fact that he's there in a full-time salaried I'm here for the long haul position makes me think they are going to be better about it this year, and they are going to support more people. And I think I still hate the fact that when we talk about a game on these shows, and or I talk about it at a show or in a comment or whatever the fuck, where I guess I don't go to shows anymore. And you say indies, and people will be like, yeah, I just don't play indies. And it's like, oh my God, like, that is like, you know what I mean? I remember being at IGN when, it's pretty good for a downloadable game. Like, like we need to get past that and let these things speak and have an audience and help them get there. But we're in this weird point where you're still trying to push that forward and get everybody to understand. And for like, I always talk about Poe, my friend at home, who's like, he buys 3 games a year or whatever for his PlayStation. Like, I want to get to the day where he downloads an indie on his own. He heard about it. He saw something about it on the store and he was like, oh, this is something I would like, and got it. And that's how he did it. And we've broken through to that. And he doesn't even understand what an indie is. He just knows it's a game.
I mean, well, that's why I think this for me is very much a step in the right direction and somewhat exciting, because I think when I think of what that barrier is for indie games and why they don't necessarily make it to Poe, or why you see people at a PAX be like, oh yeah, I don't play indies or whatever, or like I've not necessarily been super into indies. I think the main barrier has been marketing and advertising and like placement on the store and things like that. It's not necessarily the fact that like indies aren't appealing, because like I've ventured to guess that even the people that say they don't play indies have probably played indies and just didn't realize it was an indie. Like I think indie games have hit that point where they are like it for me, we're almost at the point where it's not even worth like that distinction of calling something an indie game and calling something not, because you have a game like Cuphead, and I scroll on TikTok all the time. I see Cuphead themed TikToks, right? Because like Cuphead has transcended just the video game conversation or just the indie conversation. Awesome. Undertale, right, is another one where if you look up Undertale just on YouTube or on whatever platform, you might be shocked by how much fan creation and fan content and obsession there is with Undertale, because that was a game that transcended that circle, that transcended that just like the indie label. And there are plenty of indies that I think have done the same. Like Minecraft started as an indie game, and that's one of the most popular games of the decade, if not ever. And so I think this is awesome. I think having indie games be a part of that PlayStation presentation, and once again, like them not having it be a reel, them not necessarily denoting games as indie before the reveal, them just bundling in Bugsnax and bundling in Jet the Far Shore and these other games, in with Ratchet and Clank and Hitman 3 and these other games, and treating them as regular, I think is strong. I think adding a spot on the store would be an amazing thing, and not even just like I think it would be cool if they had added like an indie tab, but even not just that, right? Like, and again, this comes down to budget and marketing and all the stuff that big publishers are going to have that indie developers aren't necessarily going to have. But if within the same action of Shu taking ownership of the head of PlayStation Indies initiative or whatever, I think part of that does come with them lending a hand and bringing in indies to take that spot on the store, or like a front spot on the store, if that makes sense.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And I think it sounds money grubby, of course, and it sounds gross, but is there a way you think that people are always asking us with the PlayStation 5, like, what do you want out of it? And how do you want to, what I mean? What do you want the UI to be and all this different stuff? Is there a way that when you boot up the PlayStation 5 and you're on your home screen, that the first thing you come to is the store? Is there a way to do that and not have it be gross? Because I think even right now, and I'd have to boot it up and go look at it and dig for it, but I know they were for a while doing not the critics' choice, but like PlayStation choices, where it was like a curated list from Sid Schumann, and it was like I think Shu did one maybe. I forget. There's people who are doing things of like, here's what you should be playing kind of thing. There's got to be an interesting way. I don't even know if it's like side runners, even though that makes it seem like ads, I guess. There's got to be a cool way to have that video store feeling you used to have, where you'd go. I don't know if you're so young. I don't know if you remember, but you'd go in there and it would be like, here's a gene pick. Like, you know what I mean? Here's a and like you see in bookstores and comic stores now where you go in and on the shelf, it is like, I'm recommending this week. And this is because why, right? Like, I feel like there's got to be some middle ground between the PlayStation blog and the PlayStation store that you could have as a front page or a landing page or whatever when you boot up your thing to see not just new releases, because that's so lame and why do you want to go through it, but them calling things out that are rad. But I don't know how to do it and not piss people off, because I know people just want to get to their games. There's got to be some kind of UI you could do it for, though.
Yeah. And I think you can make that work, not necessarily like within that first landing page, because I think with that UI experience, you want things to be kind of straight to the point. As a user, I don't necessarily want to be greeted with the store, but I do think that with a digital console edition and where video games are going, more and more people are just going to be spending time on the store. More and more people are going to be exploring those spaces. And I think you can use those spaces in order to shift stuff to the forefront, like bring eyes on stuff that's rad that we might not know about, right? Like I think you can have that balance of, all right, what deals we have going on, like, all right, cool, like let's get Madden on the front page because us and EA have that marketing partnership. All right, let's also get our
see, that's where it gets gross though. That's what I don't want. Like, and I understand that that's what it already is when I fucking go to the store and it's like featured Call of Duty fucking Warzone. Now granted, Warzone also, I'm sure, crushing in downloads and players and everything else. Like, I don't know what I'm driving at wanting it to be like fucking bye, blessing. Jesus, I didn't mean to piss him off, Kev? You say one thing about the storefront, he bails on you.
Yeah, what a piece of shit,
I'll bring my head up. Like, if you're an audio listener, blessing has disconnected from Discord. He was freezing a bunch, so I guess that makes sense that he sucks and I'm great. Work. But I don't know. You know what I mean, everybody? Like, you know what I mean, listener/viewer. I'm looking for. I want that Gene's pick, and yes, this is a Seinfeld reference. But that's what I just feel like.
You think he's coming back?
No, I think he's very upset that I made fun of the stuff like I made fun of it. You know what I mean? And now here he is. But, we're still cleaning up dog poop?
Yeah, it's the first time ever I stepped on it. It's a long time for...
He slacks, internet cut, restarting my laptop. You stepped in it? I'm sorry, that's what you said?
Yeah, I stepped on it.
So Cecil had a poopy and then you stepped on it?
It was in the backyard. I was talking to someone.
While you were running the show?
I got wireless headphones. It was a house-related thing.
You're all over the place.
Where is... I'm trying to get your camera up. Well, it's just... Hold on.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
I should have contingency. Oh, there it is. Left monitor. Bam!
Bam. There's your contingency. That's what I like to see. Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be very fascinating to see if they're connected to this and they believe in it. Because I want them to believe in it. I want them to support it. I want to keep going. But
it's a tricky situation. What you were talking about, finding a solution.
Shut up! That was actually really good. That was actually really good. You had me for a second. I was like, oh no, Kevin knows exactly what we're talking about. No, he doesn't. Kevin. Blessings back, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Blessing. Adios, Junior. Adios.
Yo, are we good? We good? Okay.
Yeah, we're good. We're back. Are you good?
Yeah. No, I'm good. It's one of those weird things where my internet cuts and then I restart my laptop and it works. And so it doesn't seem to be an internet thing. It seems to be something weird with my laptop. That goes on.
You get that work laptop?
It's the work laptop, yeah.
You want a desktop?
I don't know. It's weird. Do I want a desktop, Kevin?
Sexy one. It's got lights in it.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, let's talk later. Let's talk later. I want to know more about that. So I cut when you're essentially when I made like when I was talking about the Madden thing, and you're about to say something else.
Oh, okay. I was saying, yeah, that's what I don't want. Like, I don't want it just to be paid placements. I want it to be a curated thing. And I think that at that point, it's so impossible not to do, because it would have to be that you would have to pay someone who's doing it weekly or whatever. It's like, it's inevitably going to be something that starts and then after 2 weeks doesn't get updated anymore. And it is just still like, fucking buy this game. Whoever.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that makes it complicated. And this is me speaking as somebody who doesn't know how the business actually works and doesn't know how the PlayStation Store gets curated and all that stuff. And so, like, I think the way it would have to work or could work is like You have your paid placements, which are the things that you have to have at the front of the store. You have whatever your thing is, like say it's Ghost of Tsushima or whatever the first party thing is that they're always going to have at the front of the store because it's PlayStation.
It's a good business. Yeah.
And then have like some space that is like, hey, here's curation, here's us surfacing stuff to the front of the store that wouldn't get surfaced otherwise because they're indie or because they wouldn't have the budget or whatever, that we think are cool and that we think you should pay attention to, or things that we're taking ownership. Because like Huntdown is a game that, you know, I played because it was part of our 104 games segment of the show. But what piqued my interest was seeing PlayStation tweet out about it, and being like, "Oh yeah, Huntdown's coming to the PlayStation Store." Like, you know, it's not that PlayStation is shy about taking ownership of indies and trying to surface and curate that stuff. It's just doing it in ways that really like bring people in and really alert people to their presence.
And it's the thing, they're already doing it to an extent.
Yeah.
So like, how can you make that more dynamic? Because look, I don't want to fucking load this every day, and that's like, look at all, and yeah, all right. See, like, you have Discover must play, have now games. What is that now? Channels accept. Explain. You know.
Can you look at the camera real quick, Greg?
Hey, it's me, Greg. How are you?
Oh, I thought the autofocus would kick in right away.
No,
Sorry.
I mean, it being focused on the TV is actually a good thing, right?
No, I mean, it looks really, really cool.
Yeah.
But I was
shitty.
If the focus changed to him and it looked like we had a camera op doing it, like that'd be pretty cool, you know?
That'd be really awesome, actually. But like, you imagine that this stuff is gonna be fixed with the PS5 in terms of like how slow the store is.
Blessing. I understand you don't.
It's
you
an
don't
SSD.
Blessing. I mean, come on now. I don't. Here's what I'll tell you right now: as a student of the PlayStation game, don't for a fucking second assume anything that's broken obviously is going to be fixed for it. Like it remains to be seen how fast these trophies are going to fucking sink and shit like that when we get this thing.
I swear, if the SSD doesn't fix, and I guess a lot of this is what internet.
Why would the
SSD
like what the fuck? Things you might like.
But like, my PlayStation has moments that load even when it's not stuff that has to do with the internet. Like when I go through my games list, it chugs.
But that's not the SSD.
Here's my favorite thing, ladies and gentlemen, of like what the fuck's wrong with your PlayStation.
I'm curious what Kevin, what's not the SSD? The
loading time? Isn't that like the connection with the network and the PSN itself?
On the PlayStation Store, probably. I'm talking about the PlayStation UI in general. Like when I'm looking through my own library of games is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Wait, and I don't know your own library in your like games folder or whatever folder. I don't know how you.
Yes, you like my downloaded games. If I go to my downloaded games folder right now and try to scroll through my games, it chugs trying to populate it all. Yeah, like go to library.
I know exactly.
Well, no, library's different because that's now you're back at the. You're right now. You're looking at PSN. I'm talking about in your folder on your XMB.
Are these are downloaded games
now? You're talking about what I already have on my PlayStation.
Yeah. So if you go in there, scrolling through there, you guys have no issues, right?
I mean
for the most part, yeah. I mean, it chugs a little bit.
My favorite.
But I'm talking about.
I pop out to look at something and I come down here and then it auto brings me back up here. I'm like, no, motherfucker, what are you doing?
If you go into library, this is way more fun.
But no, the library has a section for downloaded games.
Yeah, but that's still pinging their servers. Like that's not looking at like, you know what I mean?
Kevin, if this PlayStation was offline, it would be the same thing.
Greg, turn the internet off.
Like I can still look at my game library if I'm offline.
No, you're making a lot of sense now. But what I'm assuming.
I'm offline. What do you want?
It's
you're assuming that it's going long.
It's pulling the images from the internet. So
yeah, go back to library.
Man, that recorder is real annoying, isn't it?
Can you hear that?
Just scroll down as fast as you can.
These are the ones I've downloaded. Like you're talking about my purchase. Like my purchase.
Kevin might be right.
Hell yeah.
Oh, right. Kevin might be right.
Idiot.
Because for my downloaded games, it does chug. But maybe that is because it's pinging the servers, even though it doesn't need to ping the servers.
Well, it might not keep the images in its temp. Like, it might not... sorry, that...
Do you want me to turn on? I'll shut the windows.
No, it's okay.
These little girls. There's these little girls in the courtyard who want to be so happy.
I gotta talk to them. Wait, they're in the courtyard? Get a pail of water!
They're literally right underneath the window.
This is great content.
You know what's probably the truth too is like I bet their parents bought them the recorders and they're like, go do me a favor. Whenever you hear that fat guy upstairs screaming, go play this underneath his window because it forces me to shut the window so they don't have to hear me scream about fucking PlayStation all day long.
It's warfare.
Eye for an eye, right?
How do we escalate? You want me to get you surround sound?
No.
I like the rabbit hole we just went down. We just went on an adventure over the last 10 minutes, and I really like it. Also,
but see, back to my point is that I know they do the curated list thing, but I can't even fucking find it on the store. You know what I mean? Like where I'm looking for. Like, and maybe they don't have one currently going, but why wouldn't you have one currently going? Here's my thing, and I know it's tied to a million different things. I don't understand still how in 2020 PlayStation doesn't have a Major Nelson, Phil Spencer, whatever you want to put out. How do they not have a front-facing person? The PlayStation blog and the PlayStation Store need to get rolled into one, and Sid Schumann needs to have a column on there that is just like,
oh, definitely.
Every week I'm telling you the 5 things I'm playing that you should play, and I'm bringing in guests. Or I mean, fucking Shu should have it, right? Because Shu does it on Twitter where he talks about all the stuff and changes his things out.
These are all things they should do, but for some reason, I don't know the reason. Maybe the reason is like, hey, we don't want to have front-facing people like that in case like scandal happens, or I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's just like a thing they don't see.
I think they've just learned over time, right, that they're going to lose everybody.
Maybe that's it too.
Don't put your seeds in it. Even Kevin Butler can't be trusted. He's going to show up in a fucking Firestone ad playing Wii. Well, my one thing I wanted to call the PlayStation out, Donna. This is something I think most normal human beings probably don't have to deal with. But when we get games blessing, sometimes they say, hey, you know, hide all your activity. Don't tell you, I mean, you have the game or whatever. And there's a thing on the PlayStation that should make this very easy called hidden games that you can go into and assign a game to be hidden.
This is the fucking worst.
Yep.
Hidden games it's literally every game you own thrown in a shoebox and shit. It's not alphabetical.
Why
it's not when you downloaded them. It's not when you
search?
purchased them. It is ridiculous.
Have you tried talking to someone about this?
Do you know you can use it on your phone? Or do you know you can go into that on your phone?
Does that make it better?
It makes it somewhat easier. Well, it's still not alphabetized, but it makes it easier to scroll through.
Huh.
I hate it so much.
Greg, item number 3, Horizon Zero Dawn has been announced for Steam, and it's already a bestseller. I'm going to read pretty quickly from Sammy Baker at Push Square, who writes, "It's not a huge surprise given the profile of the title, but Horizon Zero Dawn has shot straight to the top of Steam's bestsellers list following this week's release date announcement. In case you missed it, the title will launch on PC from the 7th of August, and it'll also be available on the Epic Games Store if you prefer to do your shopping there. In the UK, the Guerrilla-developed role-playing game is currently outselling discounted copies of Football Manager 2020, Doom Eternal, and Halo: The Master Chief Collection. Not bad company to have. We'll still need to wait and see if this unprecedented endeavor pans out for PlayStation, but it'll surely be buoyed by the early signs." Did I pronounce that correctly, Greg? Buoyed, like a buoy. Okay.
Baba Booey.
Baba Booey. So cool. That's awesome.
Do you know who Baba Booey is?
No.
Yeah, no, that's great, and it's, I think, to totally be expected, right? And I will be interested to see, because, you know, since this came around, right, and we were talking about, is this real and why would it be real? And I was like, yes, it's real. It's a way to fucking sell Horizon 2 on PlayStation 5, right? Like, it'll be interesting to see if you see that conversion. Where I do think that's the idea here, is that you have a bunch of PC players who have never played Horizon, play Horizon, fall in love with Horizon, and then be like, oh man, it's 3 weeks until the next thing, or no, that's not right. 3 months, 3 years, whatever it is. You know, is Horizon Forbidden Wilds, right? Is it right around the corner? It's out next.
Yeah. I can't get over the recorder that's outside your window.
Is it still going?
It gets picked up every once in a while, and it sounds like a faint.
It's like maybe the most annoying subtle sound I've ever heard in my life, where like it's not a problem, it's not like grating or whatever, but just knowing that it's there, like I feel like I'm gonna leave this podcast and still continue to hear the sound.
I black it out. I don't even hear it. Should I ask them? I'll ask them. They're nice kids. They'll stop probably.
Just get a water balloon. Just toss
I'm not gonna resort to water warfare, Kevin.
Well, yet.
Again, I haven't even tried. I haven't even tried asking.
Yeah, but I don't want to ruin
one of them's
their fun.
got like just the regular recorder, and then one of them's got like a funny recorder. Because the one's going, and the other goes. Here's what I'm going to say, Kevin. Why don't you just order me a recorder?
And you just do it.
You just play it louder.
Join in. I'll just join in.
I'm not gonna lie. I already thought about ordering a recorder so that I could play over here while you're going. I thought it was fun.
God, that would be good.
That would be really good, actually. They're really good. Greg, that's it for the X's and O's.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what Blessing's been playing. And when I say that, I really just want to review Iron Man VR because we said we would do that. But before I do all of that, let's hear from our sponsors. This episode of PSI Love You XOXO is brought to you by youtube.com/kindafunnygames. You probably know youtube.com/kindafunnygames because for a lot of you, that's where you get PSI Love You XOXO. But I know for a fact more of you listen to PSI Love You XOXO. And so what I'm asking you to do, audio listeners, is to go to youtube.com/kindafunnygames, drop us a subscription. If you didn't know, it really helps us out optically, obviously, for people to see that there's a bunch of subs, because obviously having a bunch of listeners like yourself, it's amazing. It's awesome. It's really, really, really cool. But it's a harder number to show people and say, hey, this is why you should work with us, or this is why you should help us out with this crazy idea we want to do. This is why you should send someone to be on the show, stuff like that. So I need you to go to youtube.com/kindafunnygames and subscribe. If you already subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you just use the YouTube videos but don't subscribe, subscribe. If you have a spouse, subscribe on their account. If you're at the Apple Store, put youtube.com/kindafunnygames on all of the machines. Make fake accounts. Your grandma's going to need your help at some point, probably getting into her email. When you're there, subscribe to youtube.com/kindafunnygames. Just you get a bunch of subs in there. Tell your friends, huh? How many, I understand that we're a bunch of weirdos over here, but we don't have to be like some secret you don't tell anybody about. Tell your friends. They like video games, do it. You see somebody on a message board talking about podcasts, they like, mention us in there. You know what I mean? Just go youtube.com/kindafunnygames. Watch the stuff there. There's a bunch of other shows. If you didn't know, there's another channel called youtube.com/kindafunny, but I'm not promoting that right now. Instead, subscribe to youtube.com/kindafunnygames. It would mean a lot to me. Less to Blessing, but that's because, let's face it, all right? He tells me to dress up for parties and then doesn't show up. Well, he showed up to his party. He just didn't tell me. I still don't fully understand if I misunderstood or if he was in fact screwing with me. I just don't know. youtube.com/kindafunnygames. Blessing, it's time for what you've been playing, and in the rare occasion, I will start.
Whoa.
I've been playing Iron Man VR. I beat Iron Man VR. All right, all 12 chapters of it. I'm going to platinum Iron Man VR. I have not yet because I'm reviewing Ghost as well. And so, like, we got Ghost, and I started playing that, and then Monday, Iron Man VR showed up, and it was like the review embargo's Thursday, and I was like, fuck, so I slammed through Iron Man VR, and then it's back to Ghost. But when Ghost is done, I will double back to Iron Man VR and do it. Blessing, you played a bit of Iron Man VR, correct?
Yeah, I talked a little bit about it on Kind of Funny Games Daily when the embargo went up, and I had only played through the prologue and chapter 1. Now I've played a little bit of chapter 2, and I think I'm done with it. I don't think I'm gonna play more of it. I don't think it's for me. It's like, in theory, I feel like I like this game, but in practice, I'm not interested in what's going on. Like, I think Iron Man is a hero that I like, but I think I just might like specifically the MCU version. This version of Tony Stark isn't really speaking to me. Like, he has some of the humor of the MCU Tony Stark, and like some of the swag is there, but it feels like just a copy that doesn't live up.
This is going to be the problem for every human being ever who tries to play. And this includes Nolan North, I think, in Avengers, right? Of like anybody who comes and tries to be Iron Man after Robert Downey Jr. in honestly a generation defining performance, right? However many movies it was that he was actually Iron Man or Tony in, like, yeah, you're going to have an uphill battle. Even though I think Josh Keaton does a good job. Yeah,
and that's the thing is I don't think like the voice acting is bad or anything like that. It's just like, oh yeah, this definitely isn't the Iron Man that I know and love. And even the jokes and the witty comments and the back and forth between like Friday and like, you know, stuff like that is all right, but none of it necessarily hit home for me in the time that I played that. And then also the controls just felt kind of messy to me. And I think it's a combination of, and you said for you the tracking was great. For me, the tracking hasn't been great on my side, and I don't know if that's like my specific setup.
Sure.
And like,
it's VR, right? There's so many different variables to it that I feel like,
there's so many.
How much light is in your room? How much is this happening? What's going on here?
Exactly. And so like I even had to like sit, like take off my headset and be like, all right, what can I adjust to make this work perfectly? And I closed the blinds, turned off the lights so you can only see the lights on my headset and on my controllers. Did all that, went back in, and like for some reason it like things feel woozy for me in there. Like it feels like there's like movement going on when I'm not moving, and that was kind of making me feel a little bit sick. But then in terms of the controls, I think they do some clever stuff in terms of, you know, to shoot your blasters from your hand, you like do this movement right here. You like you point your palm up in order to shoot. You do that. You if you want to like shoot rockets out of your wrist, you like point your palm down. Cool stuff like that I think works, but at the same time just got kind of messy for me in terms of me being in the moment, being like, all right, what do I want to do? Okay, cool. And I had to like think about like, okay, I want to do the wrist rockets. How do I do that again? Okay, cool. Point down with my palm. All right, cool. That's wrist rockets. Okay, now I just want to do the regular repulsor blast or whatever. All right, how do I do that? Okay, yeah, palm up. And as a PlayStation gamer, you know, X square triangle circle is ingrained in my head. I know how to pull off combos and I pull off like quick action with that. But now me being in the point where I have to like think about all the different things I want to do, kind of took me out a little bit. And the thing that actually made me rage quit was getting to they have these obstacle courses, pretty much like these timed obstacle courses that we talked a little bit about in our talk Friday. But there was a second one that I didn't know about, and that one is essentially meant to train you on some of the new mechanics that they just taught you. And I did it, and I think I got like 5 minutes on it, and I think like it was supposed to be like a minute long thing, and I did it, and it was like, oh, you failed, you're gonna have to replay it all again. And I was like,
holy
no,
shit,
I'm not, because yeah, I didn't realize. I thought it'd be a thing of if I complete it, I can just move on. And when it told me that I was gonna have to do it again, I was like, all right, well, enough for me. I think I'm good. And so that's my story with Iron Man VR.
Gotcha. I didn't have that story. Of course, full disclosure, there's a kind of funny Easter egg in Iron Man VR. So if you need to, take our opinion with a grain of salt. And of course, game provided by PlayStation, all that jazz. I'm sure I don't know if we have to say it, but I did it. Kevin, don't even tell me you have the graphic. I already put my graphic up. Don't worry about it. I really like Iron Man VR, but everything you've read about it is true, I think. You know what I mean? Where, to your point, Blessing, of like, palms up, wrist down, flying, trigger, move buttons and stuff. Like, I wouldn't say I was frustrated by it, but like I was doing it really quickly and playing in long stretches of time. There would be a distinct point every night, I think, where I was like, all right, time for bed, because I just couldn't keep it all straight in my head. Because what you're saying, right, is it is a new way to control, a new way to shoot and all this different stuff. And it is, you have to learn that. It wasn't like intuitive, and there'd be times where I'm like early on trying to fly, but I start shooting rockets, or I'm trying to shoot a rocket and I start flying the wrong direction or whatever, and then like trying to pinpoint a landing would be difficult or whatever, and I bounce out of it. But I did feel that by the end I had a flow to it, which is going to be interesting to go back trying to platinum it, because now I'll be, of course, coming at it pretty much from ground zero again. But I enjoyed it. Like, it does deliver on what I got out of that first demo, which was the demo everybody else put up. And the first demo I got after that Gamescom, I think, State of Play, is the same demo they put up for everybody else. So the Malibu fight course, and then the first one of chasing the plane down and stuff. I think the game is fun throughout. I enjoy it the entire way through. I think, again, everything you've read or seen about it is true, which means the pros and cons of it, I think, where some people hate the actual gameplay, like you're talking about with the repulsors or rockets and stuff. I dug it. Like, I think the level for me of digging the game is every time a level started and you'd breathe in the mask, and then the HUD would fold down and it would come alive through the Iron Man lenses, and you'd have the reversed of what we always saw in the Avengers films of Robert Downey Jr.'s face and the HUD on it, to see the HUD from the inside out. And like, I'd be shooting things and like looking for enemies in the radar, and cut my thrusters, double shoot back, get somebody who was chasing me, blow them up, fly around that way. Like, that was it for me. Like, I think, honestly, like, for your first playthrough of it, if anything, I think there could be more action, which I think, the game is, I think, interestingly and successful in a lot of ways, is trying to tell you a story, which I know sounds silly. It's a video game, of course, but I think even if you played the demo of, all right, you're at Malibu, now you're up in the sky, all right, there's a bad guy, you go save Pepper, but there's a bad guy who's doing all this different stuff, you'd be like, okay, cool, I kind of get that this is gonna be like an arcadey experience, when it's to an extent arcadey gameplay, but it is wrapped around a narrative that they tried hard on. And that, I think that Josh Keaton and Jennifer Hale do a really good job with it, and other characters I don't want to ruin do a really good job with, for me personally, of keeping me engaged and keeping me on my toes and doing things I didn't expect as a Marvel fan, as a comic book fan. Like, there's a whole bunch of different shit they do in there, and I'm like, oh fuck, that's actually really cool. And moments I was like, oh my god, that's what we're doing, awesome, I'm down for that. And I think by the end of it comes together, but that's tempered obviously with you're in VR. So it is, even for me, somebody who likes narrative more than anything, I think the gameplay for me personally was so much fun that I wanted to get back to it. And there were plenty of times of like sitting around the war room talking to Friday, and it's like, all right, cool, let's go shoot some stuff though. Let's go do this. And then there's like towards the end, a narrative based level that is very slow paced that I think was a little too slow. I understood what they were going for, but this is that hard line to walk, I think, in terms of taking what traditionally works in a video game and putting it into a non-traditional video game. And that's what VR is. And that's where it all gets interesting, because I think, earlier we were talking about it, it's pretty good for a downloadable game. Like this game, I've seen reviews across the map on it, right? And I think, Upload VR had a really good one. Of course, David's our friend. He's been on the shows before, the reviewer, David Jagno. And reading his review and seeing, it be lauded and stuff, and oh man, it's this, that, and the other. I think it's a really good VR game. And I think that's comes with its own criteria in a lot of ways, right? Whereas if you were to compare it to just being a normal video game, a normal PlayStation 4 game, I think it would get eaten alive in a lot of different ways. And I think that's why you're seeing a polarized reaction in terms of VR enthusiasts being like, this is fucking great. And then other people being like, is it? I don't know. You know what I mean? Because I think it's the number one complaint you've seen across the internet. I've seen on the, subreddit for PSVR is the load times. The load times are outrageous in this.
They're not good.
And one of the reasons I think they're so bad is the fact that you are in VR. There's no way to get away from them. I think, you know what I mean? Like I've noticed in a lot of games, Last of Us and, something else I've been playing recently, not Ghost. So don't even try to catch me with embargoes. How fast load times are now. Where like in Last of Us, I would die and I'd go to grab my phone to look at Twitter and it was already like hit X to get back. And I'm like, fucking geez, all right, cool. Like you're right back into it. You don't even think about it anymore. Iron Man VR is such a throwback to a PlayStation 2 kind of thing where you die. Like there was one section in the slow level that I was fucking up and I died like twice, maybe 3 times in. And to sit through that fucking load, this load bar pops up that goes so slow. And I shouldn't specifically call it out. There is a load bar, number one, that'll do it on very certain things. And then another one that's the fill in the circle around like the arc reactor. And it's just like, you're in VR in the headset. So you can't look at your phone. You can't do anything else. You can't talk to anybody. So you're just sitting there watching it. And they put up little things and you can check your trophy progress and you can read little factoids and stuff, but it's still to the point where you're like, is it still loading? Jesus Christ. Like what the fuck? And then I think in the same vein for a PlayStation VR game that's doing all these different things, like it doesn't look great. I think in motion, it's really good. I think when you're going around doing stuff, okay, cool. But like you're fighting drones nonstop. There's drones on drones on drones on drones. That's who you fight. There's a couple boss battles that are different, that are cool too. But like drones are the main thing. I'm not against that. Like when they announced the Iron Man VR game when we were watching the reveal, my immediate fear was it was going to be just a shooting gallery, just an arcade shooting gallery, right? And then to get in and play it for the demo, see there was more than, you're like, okay, great. To then play 12 chapters of it and be like, cool, there was more than that. There are, I think it's 6 different drone type enemies. Don't quote me on that. Maybe 8, something like that. You see them all on a table or whatever. By the end of it, it's not so much about introducing new enemies, it's about introducing new combinations of them and how to fight them and what they're doing and stuff. I was down for that. Again, I think the actual act of being Iron Man and Iron Man VR is fun. I had a great time with it, especially by the time I had my head wrapped around the controls, and it was not second nature, but it was knee-jerk reaction normalcy of like blast off this, go over there, kill that thing, do it all over again. This enemy needs this, which means I have to dodge here and attack from behind or use this kind of weapon on them. That worked for me, but I don't mind the drones being the same drones. You go back to some of the environments. Like I think, I've seen it in reviews and it's true that like Shanghai stands out as like an ugly environment. Like you're in Shanghai and it's these colorful skyscrapers and there's Stark Tower there and there's all these different things and it's cool. But even as you approach, which again, I get, it's PlayStation VR, you start in that level and Tony's like, oh man, the streets are deserted. And Friday's like, yeah, there's a lockdown in effect. Like, okay, that makes sense. But then you get there and the buildings are super blocky. And it stands out, I think, because you enter this thing and fly over there before there's combat. So you actually are taking in the city. You're actually looking at this thing. And it is that idea of like, oh, this is what it looks like. When then you start fighting in the world and you have different drones and you're shooting to different areas on the map and scope looking for different things. Like when you're engaged, I think you're able to let a lot of that go by. But from a purely critical objective eye, or as objective as you can be, like I can totally see what people are like, this game looks ugly, like it looks blocky, it looks like this. It looks simple is what I would say in the environments, because of course how beautiful the fucking skyscraper is in Shanghai isn't what they're trying to get me to do, right? They're trying to get me to fly around and shoot shit and see these things and chase that and feel like Iron Man, which I think it accomplishes. Yeah. And so it's this game that, you know, Kevin and I did the PlayStation VR show, the latest season of it, because now there's been 2 or whatever, right? And it's a game I would bring to that and say, this is a really fun experience. People should try it. For me, though, it's more the evolution, I think, of Arkham VR, where Arkham VR came out and was, holy shit, I have Batman's fists. This is cool. And then it was like, you know, looking through things, throwing batarangs. I don't think it was a stellar, you know, it's not Moss, you know, I don't think it's not Astrobot. It's not this, I'm going to give you the top 5 PlayStation VR games. These are the ones you need to buy when you buy PlayStation VR. It's Batman VR wasn't that. And I don't think Iron Man VR is that, but I think Iron Man VR is the evolution of Batman VR in the way I know I left Arkham VR on my PlayStation for a long, long time, because anytime somebody came over and wanted to try VR, I was like, oh, try being Batman. And it would be that, holy shit, fuck, I'm Batman. You'd have that moment of it. And I think for me, a superhero dork, a comic book dork, like Iron Man VR hits for me, where I do really dig it. I am excited to go back to it and platinum it and go all the way through and have all the suits and have everything done with it. But I totally get where you're at, Blessing. I'm just like, it's not my jam. It's not this thing. I don't think it's a perfect game. I don't think it's, you know, a top 5 PlayStation VR must-have title. I think if you're in this group of fucking, you love superheroes, you love Iron Man, you want to, you know, you want to do that thing, and you also like VR, you know, you use VR. It's like, it comes with caveats, a recommendation of this one.
Yeah, and I feel that. And I think the first full mission I played is Iron Man, where it is the mission from the trailer, where you're in the airplane, all that stuff goes down. Like, I thought, to the point you were making earlier about it not being like an on rails sort of thing, the way that you would think it would be, as it was presented, it definitely felt like one long set piece in a way that felt cool, right? Where you go from like being in the plane and you jump out and do all these different things, and then there's a story progression that's happening as the mission is progressing, and you do feel in control the whole time, which I think is like the coolest part of the game, is that you get to actually actually work as Iron Man. You get to actually like fly around and have control over how you're flying, and the flying does feel cool, because the way it works is you essentially point down and you pull the triggers, and that'll be your thrusters, and they really try to simulate the fact that you are Iron Man, and really try to make you feel like you're Iron Man, which I know is like the thing that people pull from reviews, like this game makes you feel like Iron Man. But for all intents and purposes, for a VR game that is trying to put you in place as Iron Man, they do a good job of making that stuff control and feel like Iron Man.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the interesting push and pull of it, where I do think it accomplishes feeling like Iron Man. And this again goes back to what we were talking about, though, or what you brought up, right? Of it not working right for you because of something if you're having a woozy feeling. Whereas I had the exact opposite reaction, right? Of like, I remember, early on in the game, you know, pulling up both repulsors and doing that thing where I was like, oh my God, and like rotating them and like looking at the detail in my elbow that lined up with the Iron Man elbow and moving it back and forth. And when I unlocked the ability to use the unibeam, like, for, you know, you just you're pointing around looking at it, right? But like, I'm fucking sitting here like a moron in my living room doing this for no reason, and like extending out my chest and aim. And it was like, this is fucking fun. Like this, it's fun. That's the thing, is I think it is an imperfect video game, and obviously all games are imperfect, but to sit here and be like, yeah, like the load screens suck, and yeah, it doesn't look beautiful. Like, again, I don't know what we're looking for from a PlayStation VR game kind of thing, but like, it's fun. Like, I enjoy playing this game, and like, I'm excited to go back and platinum it. And I'm excited to play more of it. I totally get everybody who's like, oh man, well, it's like, it's not what I wanted it to be. I saw a lot of reviews being like, you know, oh, well, you know, it fails. I think it was IGN's, right? Where it was like, it fails to live up to Marvel's Spider-Man, and they reference and the MCU movies, which is obviously an unfair high bar to hit, but it is like what it's being compared to. I think IGN gave it a 7, and I'm like, I get that. And David gave it a 4 out of 5, and I'm like, I get that too. Like, I see, and I saw higher scores and lower scores, and I think, I'm just citing 2 of them, but like, that's where you're at with it, where it's like, this is a really fun game, I think. But it is like exactly what we're talking about, where it's like, okay, cool. Like, some of the visuals don't look great for the most part, and I'm just fighting the same drones over and over again. And there were definitely times where it'd be like, motherfucker, another wave of drones. Okay. But it was like, I enjoyed doing it. It was just that I thought that the story was about to end. And I think that's what's going to be interesting of going back and just playing it on harder difficulty for the platinum and getting to go through the challenges and just run into that stuff and not have to worry about it. Maybe it'll get to the action more that I want, even though I enjoyed the story, if that makes sense. But yeah, Iron Man VR, I it's one of those, I like it. I think it's fun. But it's not like a ringing endorsement. You have to go play this. It's not a must play. I think if you're an Iron Man fan and you love your PlayStation VR, of course, but I wouldn't tell you to go buy a PlayStation VR for this. I am super excited to see if, like what backwards compatibility on PlayStation 5, if it can knock down these load times. That'd be fucking rad.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I wonder, because like we're talking about how we're kind of having different experiences with like the WYSIWYS and the tracking and all that stuff. I wonder if that could be a PS4 versus PS4 Pro thing. Because I'm rocking a base, which like I don't know if that stuff reflects in VR as much as just like core game experiences, but I'm excited for a PS5 version of this game that doesn't have as many load screens, because that is probably actually my number one complaint that I forgot about, is those load screens are long. And plenty. Yeah.
2 questions about Iron Man VR. One came from Kale Dolphincorn, who wrote into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames and says, for Iron Man VR, very serious question here. Do you get motion sick playing this? It seems like you would from flying around and all that. Also, does the suit have a bulge? Like, does Tony Stark have a massive dawn? Thank you. I didn't get motion sick playing it. I play a lot of VR, but like the flight controls I felt gave me control. Usually what happens for me getting motion sick in a game or a VR game is when I'm in an elevator and I'm not in control of it. And I'm like, all right, it should stop here. And it doesn't stop there. And my view stops, but my body feels like it keeps going. Like, it's similar for me in this one of driving a car or being shotgun in a car versus being in the backseat of a car. If I know where the car is going to turn, I don't get car sick. But if I'm in the back not paying attention, then I will, if that makes sense. With this one, I felt like I had control, even when I was a little bit out of control of going the wrong direction or getting stuck on the lip of a building or some shit like that. It was still that I knew I was trying to go up or something like that. Blessing, did you get motion sick at all playing?
I mean, I never got fully motion sick, but I did feel myself kind of get like I said before, woozy, which is the road to motion sickness, and so that was the thing that I did notice. And I think the suit had a bulge for me. I remember looking down and being like, my chest doesn't protrude like that. And so to both questions, I guess yes.
I didn't see my dick bulge. I saw my chest bulge. All right, there's a big old. You got your arc reactor there. I thought that was a good one. And then Mizuki writes into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames and says, hey there, Greg and Bless. With PlayStation putting some of their games out on PC as of later, Horizon and Death Stranding, do you think that Iron Man VR will make its way to the TurboTax machines around the world? I would love to play it via Oculus or Steam, but I'm not very willing to pick up a PSVR on top of my Rift. Bonus question, any chance of Astrobot or other PSVR exclusives coming to PC VR? Thanks for all you do, Mizuki. It's an interesting question.
Yeah, because we've been seeing Horizon come to PC and other PlayStation games come to PC, but VR games I think is a different can of worms.
I would say no. And my reasoning there would be, I think it's that in this scenario, they really want you to buy PSVR. PlayStation has, of course, partnered with people like PolyArc who made Moss, and Moss was originally a PlayStation VR exclusive, in quotes, before it went out everywhere else. But this is different in the way that they never published Moss. Obviously, Astrobot is first party. That's straight up PlayStation. And then, we're back to the Insomniac argument from Twitter a few years ago that technically, by PlayStation standards, Iron Man is first party as well, even though it's camouflage, making them an exclusive and PlayStation publishing it. Technically that would be the old second party term, but apparently that doesn't exist anymore according to Insomniac Games. So that would be a first party one as well, where this is a deal in the same way Spider-Man is exclusive, that we want you to buy our stuff to get this. I think you're more likely in the future, as always, to see when PlayStation negotiates exclusivity with somebody independent, publisher, developer, that'll eventually, I think, go everywhere. But I don't think you're going to see PlayStation published first party stuff go out wide because they want you to go buy this.
Yeah, I think that's the case too. Like with Horizon and other first party games on the PlayStation side, like the the competition there really are other consoles. Like at a certain point, as PlayStation, I don't think you mind people necessarily playing your games on PC, especially if you're seeing that return in revenue from people buying the game and then that spike of interest from people playing the game also. For VR, the competition for PSVR is Oculus and are these other VR headsets that are on PC. And so if you're gonna go through the trouble of having exclusives on PSVR, then putting those games on PC, I feel like defeats the whole point of even bringing on camouflage, bringing on your other first party, or bringing on those partnerships for first party. I think in that case, you just want them to be exclusive to the platform.
And I know I've made the argument before of like Half-Life Alyx is going to go to PlayStation VR. And I know that then you could look at this and be like, well, why wouldn't it work the other way? I think it's important to remember that PlayStation VR did so well for PlayStation that I think they have an audience there they're trying to support and take care of. Whereas other forms of PC VR, not Quest, which I think is, amazing. And I love my Quest so much. But other forms of it, you get into this thing of, well, fuck, how are we going to do this? Even like, I guess a better comparison would be if Alyx only ran on the Valve Index. It doesn't. It runs on everything, right? Or every PC version of everything. So eventually, you want to bring that to PlayStation VR because Valve isn't trying to, and they are, but they're not exclusively trying to use this to sell Index VR. Whereas like PlayStation is using this to sell PlayStation VR. Does that make sense? I think
that makes sense.
And so, I just don't see it for Astrobot and PlayStation. And Iron Man.
Iron Man.
The wrinkle being that if they, as I've predicted, were to say, you know what, we're just not even chasing VR anymore. Like it was cool, it was fun, but it's not going anywhere. We're done. There's not going to be a PlayStation VR 2. Then I could see them publishing it. I think it would work where Horizon, and I've said since the rumor, makes sense because they want you to buy a PlayStation 5 and buy the next Horizon. I think if they were to do this on the VR side, it would make sense only if they weren't going to make more VR. If they're like, cool, this is done, we're done with it. We want to make as much money as we can off this, and clearly you're not going to buy hardware anymore. Let's go. They do it that way. I digress. Okay. That's Iron Man VR. Like I said, I like it a lot. I think it's super fun, but it's not revolutionary. It's not, a game changer here. It's a fun thing if you have the means and desire to be Iron Man and sit through some load screens and shoot a bunch of drones. Blessing, what have you been playing?
I've been playing quite a few games. I'm always kind of playing Apex Legends, and so there's that. There's a mode that I'm playing called Armed and Dangerous, which is basically a mode where specifically you just have shotguns and snipers, and those are the only things that are loaded on the map as far as loadout. And you spawn, I believe, with like a Mozambique, which is like the very weak shotgun. It's a pretty fun mode. I'm trash at it, but I enjoy playing it, and so there's that. Playing a lot of Overwatch like I always am. That's like a daily game for me where I'll get in like 30 minutes to an hour and enjoy my time with it. It's like that everlasting gobstopper of a game that just doesn't get old for me. And I've also been playing Hyperscape, which is a game that Ubisoft they revealed. That's their battle royale, and I played that through a preview event, and that's a game that's eventually going to come to consoles.
Is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was announced for PC and consoles. And it's supposed to come out summer 2020, and so it should be imminent. Fun game. It's a really fun battle royale game. We did a first impressions on it, youtube.com, so that's kind of funny games. I sat down with Andy, and Andy basically asked me all the questions, and I gave my whole preview. And pretty much like to boil it down, right? It's a first-person futuristic battle royale game that takes place in a city that is obviously inspired by Paris. And the idea of it is you're in this virtual world. It's called Hyperscape because Hyperscape is is the name of this virtual internet, this like VR internet that exists in like, I guess, 50 years from now. And you're participating in what they call Crown Rush, which is their battle royale. And basically it works like any other battle royale where it's last team standing. It's 99 players, teams of 3, and the twist is once you get down to the last few teams, a crown spawns in the map, and basically your team wants to get that crown and hold it for 45 seconds to win or eliminate everybody else in the map. But with that twist comes a lot of chaos, and I really enjoyed that chaos. It got a little bit too chaotic at times, but at the same time, I think there's something there. I don't necessarily think that Hyperscape is going to be like an Apex killer or a Fortnite killer, but I do think it's really good. I do think it's going to be able to kind of carve out its own niche. It is very much an arena combat shooter. It is very much like an Unreal Tournament or something along those lines in terms of how it moves and how fast paced it is and how vertical it is and how crazy it gets. And so really enjoyed it, really excited about it. I'm going to play. I'm not playing. I think the closed beta is actually like ending today as
like
of the time
tomorrow.
Yeah. And so the Tuesday this post is going to be ending. But whenever it comes out, I'm going to be looking forward to it, and I'll play some of it on console.
Do you think it'll have legs for you like Apex does, where you come back to it a lot, or is it going to be like just a hot and heavy couple weeks?
I think it's going to be a hot and heavy couple weeks for now. We'll see, because it might do cool things, it might like, you know, update and grow as it goes. But the vibes I got off of it when I was playing it was that, like, yes, this is going to be very excellent for a group of people, and for me, I think I still like this doesn't necessarily blow any other battle royale, specifically Apex Legends. It doesn't blow Apex out of the water for me.
Sure.
And that's kind of my default go-to. That said, I guess if my friends are playing it, I'll play it with them.
Well, I guess.
Yeah, like it's not like Warzone, where I avoid Warzone a little bit just because that I can't get into it and I feel kind of useless when I'm playing Warzone. With this game, I like it's easily accessible. I think the rules and like the meta and all that stuff is easily understood. Like, it is such an arena first person shooter in the way that it's like, once you play it, you get it. Like, once you play it, you're like, okay, cool. The Gatling gun is strong. Sweet. Cool. Got it. And you upgrade your guns by picking up more of the same gun. Cool. Got it. Like, it's very straightforward. And it's fun enough that, yeah, like this could be like a good, like, chill back, relax game for me, and I'll jump in with friends and stuff like that. And so my plan is to play it for a couple weeks, probably. We'll see how it sticks with me.
Okay.
And then also playing Ghosts, like we've been saying.
Yeah.
And that's been taking up the bulk of my time.
Right.
But then I also played this game called Star Wars Racer Episode 1. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer.
I believe that was your 104 PSN games ranked from 2 weeks ago. As this bit keeps limping on as things are getting crazier and crazier. I mean, you know, ladies and gentlemen, each and every week, kind of. The rules didn't even make sense anymore. Each week we read through the drop on the blog, which no longer exists, and each pick a different PSN game to play. The next week we report back and rank the games in one ridiculous list. You can catch it on kindoffunny.com/104 list. The rules are we can't pick the same game. It can't be something that's AAA, and it shouldn't be something we were going to play anyway. Blessing, how's this episode 1 Racer treating you?
I loved it. So I talked a bit about it on Gamescast, but like to talk about it more, so for people who probably know, but just as a reiteration, right? Star Wars Episode 1 Racer is a game that came out on S64, and what came out I guess 2 weeks ago now on PS4 was the remastered version of that game. And I'm shocked by how good the game still is, how well it's aged, how the game still maintains that feeling of speed, right? Like, it kind of reminds me of Burnout in the sense that in the Burnout games, like the reason why I love Burnout 3 so much is because that game is all about going fast and taking down other vehicles.
Sure.
And in a way, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer maintains that same feel of you're going a million miles per hour and you're doing these sharp turns, and the track design in the game is really impressive in a way that I didn't realize it would be. Like, because this isn't my first time playing the game. I played the game at a friend's house growing up, and so I never owned it. I just played pretty much just the first few levels at a friend's house all the time. And jumping back into it in 2020 and actually like playing through all the different tracks and seeing that progression of how complicated the tracks get and like unlocking characters, all that stuff, like, game is surprisingly very fun, and I got pretty obsessed with it over the 3 days that I played it. And so much so that I tried to get the platinum, and I think the platinum is bugged for me. I did all the things that were required to get the platinum, and it did not pop.
No pop.
Yeah, it did not pop. To be clear, the last trophies I have to get, and I think I fucked myself on this one, because the last trophies I need to get are to unlock. I need to unlock 2 characters, and I need to get first place in all the races. I got first place in all the races, and I did the races that should have unlocked those characters. The thing that I think went wrong with the characters is that toward the beginning of my playthrough, I entered a cheat. a cheat
That's what you
code
get,
that would
cheater.
unlock all the characters. And so in my mind, once I got late in the game, decided I wanted to platinum it, I was like, oh, certainly if I just fulfill the requirements that I would need to have done to unlock these characters, that would just pop the trophy, and that did not happen. And so I think I would have to restart a new game and essentially beat the game all over again without the cheats, possibly to actually unlock it. And so it's a bummer because for all intents and purposes, in my heart, I platinumed the fuck out of that game. But hey, it's what happens. Sometimes
those are the breaks, man. You live by the cheat, you die by the cheat.
Some.
I've been there. I know what it's like.
Exactly.
Don't worry about it. Where do you want to rank it then? Remember, of course, we have this giant list, kindoffunny.com/104 list. Right now, the top 10 are number 1, Telling Lies. Number 2, John Wick Hex. Number 3, Streets of Rage 4. Number 4, Under Night in Birth. Number 5, Hunt Down. Number 6, Round Guard. Number 7, Darwin Project. Number 8, Hidden Through Time. Number 9, Kamiko. Number 10, Foxyland 2.
Oh man. So I know for me, I want to put it above Darwin Project, and
Okay.
I wouldn't put it above Hunt Down. So that leaves Round Guard as number 6 as like, where do I want to put it, above or below it? And for you, Greg, I don't even remember what Round Guard is, if I'm being honest.
Round Guard's the Peggle one. It's like Peggle, but the one playing out of an act and you come back. It's like a roguelite. I like it, but I can't argue that Episode 1 Racer isn't a more complete game. So I have no problem with that going in front of Round Guard.
Sweet. So I'm putting that at number 6 then.
There you go. A new number 6 entrant, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, when we did this last time, because we took a week off for the spoiler cast and maybe the week before then for something else, I had picked a summer with the Shiba Inu. I have it on the system. You might have seen it earlier, but the problem, of course, is that, yes, we are heads down on the Ghost of Tsushima review, coming off the Last of Us Part 2 review, coming off the Iron Man VR review. As I said, Ubisoft Forward is, in fact, Sunday after Ubisoft Forward. Barrett and I can talk to you, maybe even Blessing, about Watch Dogs Legion and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Huge demos we did. I did a 4-hour-long demo today for Watch Dogs Legion, including like a presentation stuff in the front. So probably like 3 hours of gameplay of Watch Dogs Legion. Like, we're playing a lot of things right now, and Blessing, I don't know when that's going to slow down. What are we going to do about the 104 list? Let alone that the drop is dead. Oh, fuck you, man. You wanted to talk about this today. The drop is
dead. This is your idea. This whole segment was your idea, and I would have thought that you would have been the one to stick with it. I've been the one playing games every single time. It looks like 2 weeks wasn't long enough for you for a summer with Shiba Inu.
I can't believe you'd sell me up the river like this. You know what I mean? I appreciate it and I respect it. I think here's the thing. I think we're going to still do it, but I think obviously, especially with the blog being not, because like right now the blog doesn't. They are supposed to do every Friday hey, we're no longer doing the drop, but here's just a list of games coming next week, right? I looked, and granted it was a holiday, but there was nothing for the July 3rd or July 4th. So it's like even there we're out to what?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say I'm between two things. I didn't mean to interrupt you because I think you're going to go in good places. But I think it's the fact for me that, one, I've lost count on how far behind we are in these 104 games. But then also, like, I think for me, my favorite part of the segment is reading through the different descriptions of what the games are and trying to guess what those games are. And picking based on those. And so, like, with that missing, I feel like I'm kind of like, I don't know what to do with this whole segment. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it does. I think it just needs to combine with what you're playing, and then we make the concerted effort to play the random indies, smaller games that come out. But like you're saying, I can't rely on the list, so I can't rely on reading the list every week anymore.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so then and we record on Monday to post on Tuesday, the day the store goes live. So it's not even as easy as us opening the store and reading the new games, because that isn't how it works anymore. So I think it's just got to be that we, especially with this, isn't going to slow down, right? You were talking about, you made a list of games you're excited for, right?
Oh yeah, dude. So like last year sometime, I started jotting down games. Whenever games were announced, I would jot down games that I'm interested in next to like their year. And yesterday I opened it up to update it somewhat. And I was shocked by how many games I'm looking forward to this year. They're still coming out. Like there's Neon Abyss that comes out July 14th. There's Paper Mario, which is not a PlayStation game, but I am looking forward to that. Fast and Furious Crossroads. But then there's West of Dead, Sports Story, Avengers, Star Wars Squadron, Cyberpunk, a game called Sludge Life, which I believe is a PC game / Switch game that is still yet to come out. Fall Guys, 12 Minutes, RPG Time,
yeah.
Ghost Runner, Dark Pictures Anthology, Little Hope, Twin Mirror, Miles Morales, Bugsnax, Pathless, Deathloop, Kena. Like there's a bunch of games I'm personally looking forward to for the rest of the year that I think makes the rest of this year somewhat busy if we're trying to still play, or if we're trying to make a weekly commitment to picking out random stuff on the store.
I'm still going to pick out random stuff in the store. And I think we get enough people to shout stuff out that we will. I just think it's got to be that I don't want every week come back and be like, well, we were working on this review. Well, we were working on this review. Well, you know what I mean? Especially in this E3 that never ends. So I think we just pepper them in and then add them up as we go. And then we're going to fucking try to do this.
We're keeping the list. We're just going to
the list doesn't go
at our own pace.
It's just this becomes another rotating segment like everything else that gets pulled out. You know, that makes sense? Yeah, so it's there and it's like like today you would enter in with Star Wars. Racer. I still am going to do Shiba Inu, but then it'll be some other random ass downloadable game I put on there that I wasn't expecting to play that I do. But yeah, you know,
it's basically of our own. Like it's more so. Now it's starting to sound like a curation list of we are choosing games on our own volition.
Yeah, okay, I like that.
It feels like more curation than it is like random. You know.
Yeah, I like that.
I've seen somebody put out the complaint, which I don't necessarily agree with all the way, but I understand the sentiment of like, all right, yeah, I like this. I like this segment, but I also don't care about half the games or most of the games these guys are talking about. And so, like, if we're able to pick games that we do care about, I feel like that then makes sense for this. Like, I think that then uplifts the whole list.
It's that for sure. Yeah, I think that helps. And then we can just it's just a curation thing of what we're doing, and we can just change it to, instead of 104 PSN games ranked, it's 2020 games ranked, PSN games ranked, 2020 PSN games ranked. There you go. It's solved. You know what I mean? That's how it is. Not to mention the fact that, like, to your point, like, the Kind of Funny best friends have never been quiet about what they like and what they hate in a show. I've rarely heard anyone talk about 104 PSN games ranked. I often feel like once in a blue moon, I'll get somebody like you're saying, like, feels like this one. I remember the one week where the guy's like, this felt like it was double the length of time. I'm like, well, we did 4 games. He's like, oh, that makes sense. All right. I guess I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I'm like, all right, well, that's pretty much all we get. Well then, everybody, welcome to 2020 PSN Games Ranked. We'll keep you posted as the list goes. Right now, it's at 43 strong. Superhero X is the last place, by the way.
Oh, fuck that game.
I'll change the fucking URL to kindoffunny.com/2020 list. There you go. That's how you can figure it out. Well, there you go. Blessing. I want to get one reader mail in for you. All right, because I'm going to be good to you. I'm going to get you the 2 hours on the dot here. And then maybe even a little less, maybe even a little less. And then we'll go over there. But if you remember, oh shit, hold on a second. Fuck, let me read ahead. Ooh, no, shit. I almost fucked up. I'm glad I thought this through. Stick with me here, Blessing. No spoilers.
Okay, I'm with you.
In The Last of Us Part 2 spoiler cast with the readers we did last week with Janet Garcia. Abdullah, you remember, wrote in with a question that I was like, wait a second, this actually sounds like you're coming from a really bad perspective on it. Abdullah wrote in with a very lengthy response, as Abdullah should, to explain what exactly they meant. However, now that I was prepped to read it, this would have spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2 in it, which we've done good of not doing it. So I'm going to toss it in the post show. Does that make sense?
I like that. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So your post show is going to be us reading this letter from Abdullah. So if you don't, you can go to kindoffunny.com/, you could have gone to kindoffunny.com/Patreon. You'd read it there, and then you would know what's up, or you'd listen to us talk about it there. And then if you don't want to do that, maybe you just don't care about the follow-up to Abdullah's question from the spoiler cast last week. And I understand. It's okay. Don't worry. No one's judging you. Let me bring up then here the question I had over here. Okay, the question I want to read then is from Ryan. Ryan wrote into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames and says, is 2020 going to be one of the best years in video game history? Looking back at all the games I've played, such as Doom Eternal, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Final Fantasy VII Remastered, and now The Last of Us Part 2, this year has already got an insane... No, I already fucked it up. This year is already an insane year for me in gaming. But knowing that there's still Ghost of Tsushima, Cyberpunk 2077, Assassin's Creed Ragnarok, Avengers, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, and recently with the PlayStation 5 event and a new friggin' Spider-Man game 2, I can't help but say this year will probably beat 2018 as the best year in gaming to me. Blessing, Adeoye Jr. Do you concur?
I don't like. I think this is a really good year for gaming. I don't think I would say this year is better than well, for me, my go-to for my favorite year of gaming is 2017. Just because I feel like that year was an embarrassment of riches on all ends, right?
Yeah.
Like from big AAA games like Horizon and Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey, and I don't really bring in all of, like the Nintendo games, but they had a strong showing that year. To like smaller games or to AA games like Hellblade or Golf Story or stuff like Nier Automata and Persona 5. Like I think 2017 was just a stronger year in terms of variety and quality, and I think 2018, if we're talking about like the big PlayStation exclusives year, I think 2018 kind of takes the cake with that, because I think that 1-2 punch of God of War and Spider-Man, I think is too strong to really go against. And I know Last of Us Part 2 this year has been a very excellent thing, and I know so many people are probably going to put Last of Us Part 2 above God of War, and like I respect those conversations, but for me,
you don't agree with them, but you respect them.
I respect them. Yeah, God of War is still above Last of Us Part 2 for me, but I wouldn't argue with somebody. Like they're very close in my eyes. But yeah, like we can't really talk about Ghost of Tsushima, so I can't necessarily factor that into this conversation yet. But like looking at the other games, Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be huge. That game I think is going to come out and do really well. But yeah, I don't necessarily see these games pushing this year over the edge is like the best.
For the record,
year
to be for full disclosure, of course, for embargoes and everything else, I played Watch Dogs today. I have not played Valhalla, but I saw you said, "Oh, Cyberpunk 2077," and then the next one is Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and you went, "You don't think Valhalla is going to be fucking dope as hell?"
I didn't do that in response to Valhalla. That was just me. That was just me thinking about like how well received will Cyberpunk 2077 be? And I know this is a conversation we had toward the beginning of the year, I think, with our fantasy draft or whatever. Actually, sure. And also with our Last of Us review, because we kind of brought that up in a Game of the Year sense of like, okay, yeah, can Cyberpunk 2077 live up to The Last of Us Part 2? And after doing my preview of Cyberpunk 2077, I have a lot of faith that game is going to review incredibly, and I think it's going to do well on Metacritic. I don't necessarily... Now I'm in a place where I'm like, but how well is it going to review really? Like, because I think you factor in like the open worldness of it, and you factor in like how ambitious it is, and what will probably happen in terms of it coming out and probably being buggy somewhat, it coming out and probably rubbing people the wrong way in some ways in terms of what it's doing with the narrative and the attitude and the world and all this different stuff. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay, how well does Cyberpunk 2077 actually review when we get that end product? And I'm curious about that. So that's what that stutter was. But
okay, just making sure.
I think AC Ragnarok is going to be good, but like we get Assassin's Creed every year. Like, how much better is it going to be than Odyssey? You didn't get one last year, actually, buddy.
You didn't get one last year, actually, buddy.
Okay, fair. Every 2 years or every
other year.
Pretty much every year, because it's 2 years
pretty
and
much
an off year.
Pretty much, yeah.
Bless, I can't remember.
But,
did you like Odyssey?
I didn't play Odyssey.
You fucked up, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kevin,
I believe his opinion. Boo. You know
I'm just not
I mean?
Kevin, Assassin's Creed just hasn't been my jam.
Kevin, text your sister, tell her to come downstairs and take Blessing's backpack off the door.
First of all, I'm upstairs.
Yeah, he's upstairs.
I don't know where you live in this house.
Man. Yeah, that was really embarrassing on your part. I feel like we talked about the breakdown of the house many times.
I'm sorry.
I will say that
you don't listen. I guess you know what, Blessing, you're right. Odyssey sucks.
No, what?
Oh, no, I didn't say that. I'm just saying Assassin's Creed in general just has never really been my jam. I played the first two and I thought they were like fine, and it's
so you're
never
more
grown me.
Peanut butter
said,
man. Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I mean, I do love peanut butter. Yeah, what's that have to do with anything? Peanut butter is great.
Overrated.
But I do think
jam.
I see what you did there. I do want to play Valhalla. I think I'm ready to get back into an Assassin's Creed. Or to try out like a modern Assassin's Creed, because I know like
you've been hurt before, but you're ready to give it another shot.
I was hurt long ago toward the beginning of the franchise, and I don't want to like let that color what my opinions are of the franchise nowadays. And so I want to try it out. I want to try out an Assassin's Creed.
Okay.
But what do you think? Do you think this year is is going to end up as the best year for video games?
No, I don't. I think it's a really good year, but here's the thing: no, I don't. But it's not beyond the realm of possibility. Like Ryan brings up a lot of great games here. When you start laying it out like this way, if everything, if it's all coming up roses, actually, yeah, okay, maybe it could. There's something about it where, I think we did a Gamescast about this, right? Not too long ago.
Yeah.
That was what's the best year in gaming. And I want to say I argued for 2018, right? God of War and Spider-Man and all that, I think is the year I argued for. And I was trying to find my notes, but my notes are all garbled because I think I was deleting stuff as I was doing it and talking to everybody. It's so hard to say when you're in the middle of it. I know, and I actually know, so then it must have been 2018 because I did do a video in the middle of the year I picked. But maybe it was.
You picked 20. You definitely picked 2018 because I think the rest was picked 2017 because
I was the outlier.
And you're the outlier because of God of War and Spider-Man and I don't know if you factored in Red Dead Redemption 2, but that game came out that year.
I did, buddy. And that's the thing is, I think there it looks. I think in the moment looked more impressive, but I think now, especially still not understanding what the Xbox Series X lineup is going to be, having, what we think the PlayStation 5 lineup is going to be, but not knowing how good those games will actually be because launch games are always so interesting. I don't know, but like it's a compelling case because I didn't, Resident Evil 3 remake, I wouldn't put in the
I wouldn't include that for me.
Here's my roster that I'm going to say is going to win this for me, but Final Fantasy 7 remake, Last of Us Part 2, if Ghost of Tsushima pans out, if Cyberpunk pans out, if Ragnarok, well, now he's got me saying it, if Valhalla pans out, Avengers again. You're looking at me. I told my wife the weekend, I don't know, you know this, Jen doesn't want me to die of a heart attack, so she drags me on hikes all the time. And we were out hiking this time around, and I said, just for the record, I'm not doing it next week because of Ubisoft and something else I have to do. And then I'm not doing it the week Avengers comes out because I'm just going to sit there and play Avengers. Like, I'm all in on fucking leveling up these Avengers and getting them cool gear and shit. I will be shocked if we're like, fucking Avengers is a 9. Avengers is a 9.5. Avengers is this game that is ridiculous.
When we talk about this year being the best game or best,
if I'm sitting there putting Avengers on my roster, I will be fucking crying tears of joy. And that's again somebody who's going to play the shit out of Avengers regardless. Doesn't matter. And then even saying Tony Hawk 1 and 2, all right, you're going to put this remaster on there. That's a weird one. And then Spider-Man, again, it's Lost Legacy length. So what does that mean?
Tony Hawk. Yeah, Tony Hawk is very exciting, and Tony Hawk will factor into that conversation.
I mean, I think even though this year's been 14 years, if Tony Hawk's factoring this conversation, Patapon 2's factoring this conversation too then, all right?
Are you saying that Patapon 2 is on the same level of the Tony Hawk games?
No, Blessing, don't get ahead of yourself. I'm saying Patapon 2 is better than Tony Hawk, all right? No. I'm saying Patapon 2 is a better game than Tony Hawk. Oh, I did an ollie. Oh, I did a nose grind. Now I'm going to spin around a bunch. Yeehaw! That's Tony Hawk, all right, everybody?
Tony Hawk is great. I will not have
a person. He might be. I don't know.
Okay, fair. Very fair. But and to your point, if by the end of this year somebody made the argument that 2020 has been their favorite year for video games, I wouldn't argue against that. I wouldn't be like, you're crazy, because Final Fantasy 7 remake, The Last of Us Part 2, Cyberpunk 2077, that trio right there. If Cyberpunk pans out, right, that trio right there, it's gonna be awesome. But yeah, you factor in Assassin's Creed and Miles Morales that I keep forgetting even is this year, and Halo Infinite, which we haven't even brought up, and Doom Eternal, and Ori and the Will of the Wisp, which isn't on this list. There are a lot of incredible games that came out this year, and so I think there's a fair argument if you want to say that this year is the greatest year for video games of all time. I'm just gonna look at you and be like, 2017, baby.
All right, before we get into the post show, one thing I want to do is a fantasy critic check-in. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, you can keep track over at kindoffunny.com/PSLeague. It is myself. It is Blessing Eddie Jr. It is Jonathan Dornbush from Podcast Beyond. It is Callie from GameSpot. It is Gio from Ilphonic. We all got together episodes ago to enter into a fantasy league together over on fantasycritic.games and go. And so there's always a little bit of movement over here, and that's where we want to check in. So right now, again, in terms of points, I am in first place. I'm in first. Thank you very much, Kevin, with 38 points. Then it is Gio with 29 points. Then it is Blessing with 21 points. Then it's Callie with 18 points. Then it's Dornbush with 2 points. Remember, this is obviously all going fast and loose and continuing on here as we go. The biggest thing is I've noticed here, because we were talking about this, Blessing Eddie Jr., when we updated last time, is this fact that you can actually drop games. And we were talking about this. You have not dropped any of your games yet. What is your plan there? You going to drop some stuff?
I still don't understand how this drop process works. That's the big thing for me, because I went and I'm in the link right now. I'm looking at the Fantasy Critic page. I go to drop a game, I click it, and then it says you can use this form to request a drop game. Your league settings determine how often you can do this. And then drop requests are processed on Sunday nights. And so, like, is this the thing where I'm requesting to, like, you guys if I can drop a game, or is this like legit like a mechanic of this whole layout here where it automatically processes one drop game? Like, do we have a limited amount of drop games? I'm very confused about how that works.
Well, yeah, when we set it up, we just went with the default rules. So I don't know what
because if this was an automated thing where it's like everybody has 2 dropped games, and it said that, I'd be like, okay, cool. But it for me,
so here you go. I'm looking at it right now. So free droppable games 0. So I don't know what that means. Will not release droppable games are unlimited. Will release droppable games are 1. So once your game is listed as will not release, you can drop it. No big deal. No penalty. Will release droppable games, like you just want to get out of the game you picked, then you're too bad. You get it once.
This is really good to know. Okay, that's the part
that's
where
the thing. You want to drop you have Tales of Arise and Guilty Gear Strive earning you 0 points on your roster right now.
Yes.
Now what's interesting for me?
That seems broken, honestly, with the unlimited, because like,
it's because it's will not release games. So like, what you took a gamble, big deal. You should still be able to get.
Yeah, but I feel like that disincentivizes taking a gamble on games based on their date, right? Like, you know, you picked Horizon Zero Dawn, you picked Horizon Forbidden West, which will not release, and like that was the gamble for you, right? Like, is this game going to release or not? I feel like we should stick with these zeros. But
if you want to, I don't know if you've paid attention. It's just you, me, and Dornbush are the only ones still participating. Gio and Callie could not give a shit about this. So like, I'm not too concerned.
I feel like we set ourselves up on a slippery slope. That's what I'm scared of.
With the unlimited drops.
Yeah, but
I mean, I can't change that rule. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, let's go with it. I'm gonna drop these things then. Let's go with it. I'm going down the slippery slope.
Here's my thing though. Can I change, because you have the counter bet. Remember that thing? Counter pick? Where basically somebody picks a game and they think you're going to get points off it, and you counter pick it, you get points if it's bad or whatever. I picked Ghostwire Tokyo, right? And that's a will not release. So it earns me 0 points. I would think it would get me points for whatever, but it gets me 0 points. I don't know how to drop
the thing is, it counts as a 70. So if anything, that's actually good for you, because basically any game that doesn't come out counts as a game that comes out at a 70. And so if Ghostwire Tokyo came out and it was like an 80, you would get negative 10 points. And so like,
sure, okay,
this is more so a thing of toward the beginning of the year, you predicting like what games are going to either not come out or be bad. And so I don't know if you can pick a counter pick toward like halfway through the year, because that seems like it'd be broken.
Well, I think the thought process would be if I picked a game that you guys like. I'm looking at Jonathan's games, right? And let's say for some reason I thought the Pathless was going to be bad. Mm-hmm. I could pick that, right? I could drop Ghostwire, pick up Pathless, and hopefully actually earn points. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess.
All right. Well, that's your update.
Try it out.
I noticed that, one of the movements here, because my score hadn't really moved that much, obviously, but yours had, of course, because Iron Man VR earning you 5 points, 75.
Whoa.
So
look at
21 there. Yeah.
I also, I forget if we mentioned this last time, but in case we didn't, I got Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time on my list. And now my list is complete until I drop these games.
Well, the thing about it, so yeah, remember we did talk about this, right? Because I picked up Jet, Kenna, Bugsnax, and Squadrons.
Yes.
Dornbush
good point.
Has almost filled out his thing. He's picked up Deathloop, Destroy All Humans, SpongeBob. His most recent pickups, I guess. What does SpongeBob earn him? 0 points. Nah, that's a heartbreaker for you, Dornbush. But that's the thing. Like, here's what's going to be interesting is when you drop your games, you currently have no money. You have a $0 budget because you spent all your money on picks.
Yes. I don't know what I'm going to do with that.
Yeah, what are you going to do? You're going to have all these. Here's my thing is I want you to know. I still haven't dropped Horizon because I still hold out hope they're going to surprise us and say Horizon's coming this year. Just what, you know what I mean? What do I have to lose?
Yeah, I think there's a way I can pick without money. Like, I think if I bid on a game and I don't have money, I just automatically get the game. I think money might just be for competitive bids, but that might just be a like, I don't really have much to lose because either way, I'm getting 0 points on these things. And so if I drop them and I don't get anything, then yeah, it's not a loss for me. So I'm doing it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, keep your eyes peeled, like we said, kindoffunny.com/PS League to see what's up. Now it's time for a segment we call PSN Profile of the Week. Of course, we ask you, folks watching this show, PS I Love You, to write in to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames as I burp through the entire fucking thing, or hiccup. I don't know what that is exactly. And you give us your name, your PSN name, and why you think we should look at your PSN profile. We read it here. We agree. We look at you. Today, Steve Henderson writes in and says, "Hey, Greg and Blessing. For years, I've listened to you shout about trophies while I was unlocking a bunch myself. Thanks for the background noise. I just hit my 100th platinum with The Last of Us Part 2. The Last of Us has been my favorite game since 2013. I absolutely loved Part 2, and I wanted it to be a milestone platinum. Currently, I'm working on the platinum for Persona 5 Royal, and will do Battle for Bikini Bottom next. As you look at my list, you may notice that I have the original Last of Us platinum twice, because it's a great trophy list, you monster. That's a lie. Thanks to Neil to tell Neil to add grounded mode to part 2 for me. Thanks for the great content to listen to as I work on getting to 200. I'll write in once again when I do. P.S. Yes, I was 16 when I made my profile, but the 69, nice, doesn't bother me too much because Steve's profile name is Mr._Supreme69. So, using psnprofiles.com, we're looking at Mr._Supreme69. Steve is, in fact, a level 37 trophy hunter. 9,864 trophies to his name, 100 plats. Steve's PSN message on his thing says beyond to you.
Beyond.
84% right now on Persona 4 Royal. And then, last platinums look like this: Last of Us Part 2, Jack 3, Last of Us Remastered, Ratchet and Clank. You see this? He's got some core ass PlayStation stuff here. Only 7 trophies in Predator Hunting Grounds. Get it together, Steve. Platinum Lego Dimensions in May 2020. That is a lengthy platinum. It took you 4 years and 5 months.
Wow.
Back to the Future, the game platinumed as well. Don't listen to Kevin, it's bad. Jack 2 platinum. Call of Duty Modern Warfare platinum. Life is Strange 2 platinumed. Ghostbusters, the video game remastered, 24 of 41 trophies. Control, platinumed. Wow. Jedi Fallen Order, platinumed. Medieval, platinumed. Concrete Genie, platinumed. Odyssey, platinumed. Fuck, dude, you're knocking out some killer games right now.
Yeah.
Borderlands 3, not platinumed. Surprising. Lego DC Supervillains, not platinumed. Surprising.
They have a Undertale platinumed, which is a pretty good platinum and a pretty easy platinum, Greg Miller, that you could probably get if you wanted to.
I don't like Undertale. I'm sorry, I've tried. I can't do it.
Masterpiece. You should go back.
I'm not arguing. I'm just saying I didn't like it. You know what I mean? Platinum Goosebumps the game. Surprise, cool. Greg doesn't have this platinum yet. You know what I mean? Platinumed Days Gone the game.
Days Gone the game.
Far Cry New Dawn platinum, or is that 100%? That's 100. No, that's platinum. Spider-Man platinumed. Spyro 3 platinum. Spyro 2. Spyro 1. You're all about these trophies. Minecraft Story Mode Season 2 platinumed. Look, yeah.
I want to challenge Mr. Supreme to go back and to platinum Severed, because Severed is a great game. I don't have the platinum, so I don't know if it's a difficult one or not.
It's not difficult. It's a fun one.
Mr. Supreme here has Mr. Supreme 69. Excuse me. Has 17,
put some respect on the name.
17 of the 25 trophies. You're right there. It's a great game. It's a Vita game. It's a very unique game. Go do it. That's my challenge to you, Mr. Supreme 69.
You've been challenged, Mr. Supreme 69. Let us know how that one goes. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, you can be part of the show, patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. While you're there, you can get the show ad-free. You can get it with the exclusive post show we're about to do about Abdullah responding to the PlayStation, the Last of Us Part 2 thing from last week, and so much more. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is PS I Love You XOXO. We come to you each and every Tuesday. Usually, remember, next week is a special episode. We need your Ghost of Tsushima questions after you watch our spoiler-free review on Tuesday as a Gamescast. Give us your questions right away. Then that afternoon, Blessing and I are doing a special PS I Love You XOXO for Wednesday. That'll be answering your questions spoiler-free as well. Of course, you can get the show, youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and podcast services around the globe each and every week. Thank you for your support. Couldn't do without you. We love hanging out with you. Blessing.
Greg.
You got anything to say before we go post showing?
remember to wear your masks, people.
Wear your masks, everybody. Think of somebody else for it. Do the good
COVID
thing.
still exists. We can't be going out, congregating without taking the correct measures.
It's bad. Out
numbers are going they're skyrocketing, and so hey, remember, wear a mask. Still be cautious. We're at home still for a reason. I want to go back to the office someday.
Yeah, me too. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to serve you.
I'd be fine either way.
No, you gotta go.